This is great audio, people. I'm just saying, great audio. For the listener, Jose is showing us how to do a thumbs up, and a little emoticon appeared on his screen. And only his screen, apparently. What makes you so special, Jose?
I'm just good like that.
Well, I don't care about that, Jose. What I want to hear about is what in the hell is a sardine festival, Marie? Please tell me.
Right. So it's the best time of the year. So throughout the entire month of June, it used to be just one day. It used to be the 12th of June. Then it became a week. Now it's a month. Throughout Lisbon, there are a bunch of street parties. And it can depend on the size, because anyone can get a license and they can just set up a booth and start selling beer and sardines, the main thing. And it's amazing because you just can walk around the city and find, in Portuguese it's called areal, just find an areal and have the fun and the best time ever. And also the music is very important. I don't know how to describe it. In a way, Portuguese pop music, it's not quite folk. In Portugal, it's called pimba, which is just techno music with really raunchy lyrics.
Ooh. That's called rap. That's called rap.
No. It's more singing than rap, but it's a beat. It's like pop,
nice.
Pop with some beats, and it's really fun. And this is my third sardine festival now since I've moved to Lisbon, so I'm starting to know all the songs, but my Portuguese friends told me I shouldn't be singing the songs, otherwise I might be offending some people if they don't. But yeah, it's amazing. And we also wear sardine hats to go with the theme. This year I desperately tried to get my own sardine hat because I always steal my brother's. I was offered a beer hat, but that's not the same. So yeah, it's amazing. If you want it, the best time to be in Lisbon is, in my opinion, during the month of June. It does get a bit crowded, but if you know where to go, the less touristy sites, it's just an amazing time.
You know what this reminds me of? The movie Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. They throw that little sardine festival in the movie.
I've never seen it.
That. Huh. It sounds like it is essential viewing now.
It's on your must-see list now. It's a sweet little movie. It's definitely a kids' movie, but it really appeals to adults. And it played continuously on ships, which is the only reason I finally saw it all the way through. And it turned out to be a great, funny movie. It's so sweet.
Jose, we cannot keep talking about.
I was about to say we're getting back to the cruise ship narrative.
Sorry,
we have to end it now. Cue the music. Hi and welcome to the We Need Roads podcast. I'm your host Neil, and I'm joined for the second episode in a row by two people who live in much warmer countries than I do. #English summer. As we record this, Jose is all the way over in Florida and Marie is all the way over in Portugal. So Jose, how is the spy job going? I mean, you travel all over the country every weekend taking pictures of people. That does seem slightly suspicious.
I can neither confirm nor deny anything you've said.
Fair enough. And Marie, of course, is waging a two-woman war on fast fashion and sustainability over at the Two Girls One Musical Cup podcast. How's things, Marie?
Yeah, it's going good. The war, not so much. I've been posting quite regularly more on TikTok and YouTube, and yeah, let's just say I've been getting some stupid comments.
Oh no!
Yeah, it's what one of those moments where I'm really were you dropped on the head as a kid? It's.
Oh man!
It's people definitely not understanding how the world works. Yeah.
I mean, that's the irony is you're getting abuse there for talking about important actual issues, and later on we're going to be talking to people giving abuse for made up stuff. So that's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun episode. And well, dear listener, Ben is still off on tour at the moment, living the rock and roll lifestyle. And David has Spawn of David due any day now, which is why he's also not here.
Yes, we're so excited over here.
I will say, actually, what was hilarious is the other week I was checking our downloads and we had 90 downloads in one day. And I was like, how, why, who, and I think it was who. I think it was one person has just
Super fan.
and I think this is a mistake. If we want to be positive, we can say super fan. What I think happened is someone accidentally clicked download all to device instead of just the most recent episode, because I was trying to figure out what episode had done well, because like the new one that day didn't have that many. I was like, okay, this is weird. Let me figure this one out. And I suddenly looked back, and on one of the stats, it showed us that every episode had gained one.
Nice.
Even like the first episode. So I was like, I mean, I'd be kind of scared if someone had literally downloaded all 90 episodes, the first 90 episodes, and listened to them back to back. I'm not sure I could deal with someone who's that much of a fan. That's kind of scary if you think about it.
Just let it be, Neil. Let it be.
You were my most listened to podcast last year on Spotify Wrapped.
Aw, thank
Ah,
you.
yes. And now you're on the podcast as a semi-regular guest as well now, Maurice. So that's all you need to do.
My plan worked.
Become a super fan and then get on the show.
That's exactly how it works. Although, Jose, I'm still relying on you for the super yachts to bring them over from Florida one day.
It's going to take some time.
That's why we started the podcast. It was basically on a boat, Lonely Island. That's what we want. We want to be in suits, standing there on our super yachts.
With our flippy floppies.
Because taking a super yacht, I'm guessing, is a lot more better for the environment than flying.
Oh.
Apparently not. No. That's a no to the super yachts.
I mean, no.
It's better
I
to
think
swim,
it's more
Neil.
or less the same.
All right.
I know cruise ships are awful. Sorry, we're going into the forbidden topic again. And yeah, unless it's a sailboat, then yes.
Okay.
Oh,
But
yes.
any other like motor, no.
It's going to take you a while to get here, Jose. That's what I was going to say, mate.
Yeah. Rowboat.
Rowboat, very sustainable.
I did get the rowing machine out today. Yeah, I did do that for a little bit while I was watching football.
And yoga?
Yoga on the beach the other night. It was the summer solstice, so it was I almost said it was a freeway there, and that sounded really bad. It was a free. It was like three different things together. So it was it was a freeway. It was a evening yoga at 6 o'clock on the beach. Then there was a Wednesday morning swim club who go and dive in the sea at 6 o'clock in the morning on Wednesdays. And then there was like a social. Everyone got together and went to the pub on the beach afterwards. So yeah, a really nice night. And then there was an England football game because the sports ball is on at the minute for people who don't like football. And England, as usual, are doing what they're doing. Everyone hates them, and then they're just scraping by and being average. And everyone just seems to. Me and my friends who came over for the game the other day, we literally just ended up talking more and ignoring the game because it was that's how bad it was.
Neil, I can't believe I'm saying this, but should we get back to the episode?
Jose, I am shocked.
Of
However,
all people,
it's been so long since we've done a regular episode. You know, we had our 2-part 100 Back to the Future episodes, and we had our most recent episode on Extraordinary with our interview with our first superhero on a podcast, Olivia Marcus. So yes, this is going to be a somewhat regular show. Yeah. And it's been so long since we've done one of these. A lot of this show is going to, the whole show is going to be what we've been watching. And there are going to be some spoilers in some sections. There will be non-spoilers first. We will have the spoiler jingle to let you know when spoilers are going to be coming in. So, coming up in this episode, I'm going to be taking your order at the Snack Shack as I give you a quick review of a new teen comedy that's dropped to rent or buy, and then by way of a massive apology to all our Irish listeners over the years for mine and David's terrible mispronunciations and accents, I'm going to talk about 3 amazingly good Irish shows that I've seen recently. Actually, 2 of them are amazingly good, one's just average, but you'll find out when you listen. And they are all connected through cast members. Then we're going to delve into our spoiler section, where we're going to talk the underrated Artful Dodger on Disney+, the first 4 episodes of Star Wars The Acolyte, the first episode of The Boys Season 4, and the first episode of House of the Dragon Season 2. Yes, indeed, all the big shows are back.
Woo woo!
First up, I want to talk a new coming-of-age comedy called Snack Shack, which is written and directed by a guy called Adam Carter-Reimer. Now, it's set in the summer of 1991, and it stars Connor Sherry and Gabrielle LaBelle, and he's a guy who played the young Spielberg, proxy for Spielberg in Meet the Fabelmans. And that's literally the first thing I think I've seen him in since that. And they play a pair of teenage friends, AJ and Moose, who work at a community pool snack shack in Nebraska City. Mika Abdallah plays the newcomer lifeguard Brooke, who disrupts the friends' duo's summer plans. It's got Gillian Vigman, David Constable, and Nick Robinson in it in supporting roles. And the film's plot is semi-autobiographical, being loosely based on the director Reimer's childhood experience in Nebraska City. It's that time-honoured story of teenage best friends who both fall for the same hot new girl who's just moved into the neighbourhood, and of course they act like dicks and, well, teenagers as they both fight to win her over. The film was shot in just 6 weeks at a budget of $4.5 million, and yet sadly it only took $500,000 so far. And I really enjoyed it. Yes, it's not original in any way, but it has Adventureland vibes, which again is a really good underrated film. And not just because of the water park setting, although that really helps as well. But the 3 young leads in it are all really charming, and they act like actual teenagers. They do stupid shit without thinking. They're not mature enough to express how they feel correctly. The guys are constantly scheming and trying to come up with ways to make money. And the female lead, Brooke, she seemingly doesn't know who or what she wants, which causes all untold trouble. There's a great subplot with the older guy, Nick Robinson Shane. He's a young ex-Gulf War vet, and he looks out for one of the boys throughout the film as he deals with various bullies. This film just hits all the right buttons. For me, it strikes a balance right between comedy and just enough drama to give our characters depth. And it's got a great 90s soundtrack. It's got EMF's Unbelievable, Tone Loc's Wild Thing, and even the biggest band of the late 80s, early 90s, New Kids on the Block. Hanging Tough is in this film. Can you believe that? So, if you want a 90s nostalgia fest with a really talented young cast, then definitely give Snack Shack a go, as it's a great throwback for anyone who was a teenager in the 90s. And it's gone straight to streaming in the UK. It didn't get a cinema release, and it's not even on a free one. So, at the minute, you can buy it for $9.99, or you can rent it for like a $5 on Prime Video or Apple TV. It's definitely worth a $5 rent. Definitely worth it. Jose?
I think that's going back to the New Kids on the Block, I feel like that's an underrated band that doesn't get enough recognition for the era. That was a huge band back then.
When it comes to pop music, my time's all over the place. So, like, they were basically the Backstreet Boys of their day, weren't they?
Yeah. And it was only a decade separating them.
Was it only a decade? Right.
Yeah. No, I and that's the thing is there not many people really remember them. I think Boyz II Men obviously foreshadows them because Boyz II Men was just so much bigger because of their hip hop roots.
Weren't they just a bunch of white guys rapping though, New Kids on the Block?
No, they were doing some singing and rapping, but Boyz II Men was just more talented, honestly.
Yeah, I would never have compared New Kids on the Block to Boyz II Men, Jose.
Yeah, but their impact on the teenage scene was very big, just probably as much as a lot of other bands.
I think the time they were getting around is the time I literally discovered Metallica and
I see.
Sepultura and all the metal bands.
Not your thing.
Whereas you just stayed in the pop zone, didn't you, Jose? You stayed in your pop music lane. Or
well, to be honest, I had an older sister who maintained control of the cassette player, so I had to listen to a lot of her music. So I'm very much aware of New Kids on the Block, Boyz II Men, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, all of that until I finally got my own CD player.
And then you listened to it all anyway.
No, I mean Maroon 5 was there.
Oh.
Hey, don't hit on Maroon 5.
No, I went through that phase. It's fine.
The early years were great, honestly, and the next thing you know, they have like 10 albums out in 5 years.
To be fair, I have to hold my hand up. I went to see Limp Bizkit the other weekend, and they were playing a small little seaside festival in Kent. And there was like actual Limp Bizkit are playing in Margate, and yeah, they did.
Although he looked like he was an employee trying to like get on stage in his raincoat. That you.
So I posted the video. I posted the video, and Fred Durst is wearing this green fluorescent jacket, which makes it look like he. You said he looks like a crew member. Another ex-shipmate, Casey Hogan, commented on it, and she said he looks like a crossing guard at a school.
Yes.
And one of my friends said he looks like a bin man, so like a rubbish collector.
Yeah. And he had a long beard too, so he was kind of unrecognizable if you're just kind of skimming through the photos.
But they were surprisingly good. I was surprised you get that. Okay, so slight aside, although we are going to pull this back to music in a minute, so it works perfectly fine. I had one of my videos from that gig went semi-viral at the weekend because...
Nice.
How do I say this? Limp Bizkit did a song called Full Nelson, and there's a bit of a call and response rap bit in it. And Fred Durst got a kid out of the crowd to come on stage. And it's this really tall, thin guy gets on stage, and he's ready to go. He's like, "You know the song? Yeah. Okay. You ready to go? Yeah." And then the kid pukes all over himself and the stage.
No.
Like Fred Durst just moves out of the way and just avoids it. And they're like, and I think he said his name. He said his name was like Johnny. He's like, "Okay, guys, Johnny's sick. Guys, take care of Johnny." And like the backstage people like rushed Johnny off and tried to sort him out. But then Fred Durst went down to the front. He was trying to find people to know it, and the crowd was so hammered or just out of it at the front, where he was like, "We are. This is song. The song is Full Nelson. Do you know it?" Ah! You know, people just yelling, and you're like, "Oh no!" And then plot twist: Johnny comes back. He's been cleaned up and he's ready to go. And like Fred Durst, he's like, "Oh, he's like, are you sure you're okay, Johnny? Yeah, I'm good. Let's go. All right." And then the kid fucking nails it. He's like jumping back and forth. They absolutely kicks it in the dick, as the Aussies say. He absolutely smashed it.
Hey.
And then as he finishes, he pukes all over himself again.
Oh, no.
And so Fred Durst, in front of the whole audience, gives him a foot tap rather than like a handshake, because or a hug, because that's you're not going to touch the guy. He just puked everywhere.
Yep.
And then he goes, "Everyone say good job to Johnny Vomit."
Johnny Vomit. There we go.
That kid is now, and I posted that on Instagram, # Johnny Vomit, and that took off. It took off big. Nice. We even got new followers on the podcast who from the Limp Bizkit gig. And that is the power of social media, ladies and gentlemen. That is the power of social media. So, getting back to, actually, still on the music. Marie, what have you been watching?
Yeah, this has actually worked out quite perfectly. I do find it quite hilarious that Ben's not here and I'm about to do a music review. Because, last night I went to see Right Here, Right Now, which is the Ghost concert movie. Are either of you familiar with the band Ghost?
I saw them support Metallica at Twickenham a few years ago.
Oh, awesome.
Actually,
so jealous. Because this has honestly been like the closest I've gotten to seeing them live, because they haven't gone to Portugal, and it's upsetting. Please come to Portugal. Message to the clergy: make Ghost come to Portugal. And I honestly did not know what to expect, because they haven't been to Portugal before, so I didn't know I thought, okay, am I going to be the only one in the cinema here? But actually, no, I was. It was actually almost completely sold out, so that was great. And yes, it's because they marketed it as not just a concert movie, which I think, it delivered. So because what makes Ghost so special is that it's not just a band. They also have lore behind it. They had the concert, which was shot beautifully. They did such a good job shooting this concert. It was over 2 nights in Los Angeles. And then they had little backstage moments which fed into the story of the band Ghost. And I think these backstage moments weren't obviously shot backstage when the concert was being performed, but they did such a good job with the sound mixing that you could still hear the concert and the audience in the background. So it did work, and I thought it was quite seamless. And I loved it. I really want to see them live.
For the uninitiated, Marie, and Jose,
oh yeah,
who are Ghost and what is their style of music?
Yeah, I should probably explain this. See, this is why I don't review music. So I have personally coined Ghost as Swedish ABBA. No, not Swedish ABBA. ABBA's Swedish. Neil kept it out.
That is definitely staying now. Swedish ABBA.
Sorry, I've coined Ghost as Satanic ABBA. So it's because it borders the lines of rock and metal, and it's just, but in a way it's feel good, but with a satanic twist. And where the lore comes in is that technically they have a different front man for each album cycle. But it's the same singer. It's still Tobias Forge, but he plays a different character. So the lead singer is Papa Ebertus, but we've had Papa Ebertus the first, the second, the third. Then we've got the Cardinal, which then became the current front man, Papa Ebertus the fourth. And then the entire movie, because he's now technically been the front man for 2 albums. So the entire movie we're waiting okay, are we going to get a new front man? Is this what's going to happen? Because that's where all the lore was leading. So that was kind of the story. And what makes this I think Ghost is all about showmanship. And I think what this movie captured so well, because each version of the front man has a different character. And this one is more cheeky, but also he's very vain and doesn't like sharing the spotlight. He doesn't like sharing the spotlight. And so the rest of the band members are called the Ghouls. They're the nameless ghouls. So we don't see their faces. They've been masked their entire time. And there's also a bit of lore behind the ghouls and who the ghouls are. And the most like notable lore is that at one point, at one concert, at one point in time, one of the ghouls was Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, because he is a
Ooh.
massive Ghost fan. And that's kind of the lore attached to the ghouls. And there's a lot of stories where like famous musicians have stepped in as the ghouls because you can't recognize them. And
man.
and the ghouls, they're amazing. They're incredible. I mean, the guitar riffs were off the charts, and they just played off each other the whole time. And that's the whole thing. The ghouls kept trying to steal spotlight from each other and spotlight from Cardi, which is the nickname of the front man. And so like they would do like where they would go in front of him and like play the guitar, and he would be very like not happy with it and stuff like that. So Ghost is very tongue-in-cheek. So I thought this was like, I'm not saying this is the best movie of all time, but if you're a Ghost fan, it delivered on this. And like one of the main reasons I wanted to talk about this, because I just read an article in The Guardian about the show, and it was clearly written by a non-Ghost fan. And it went along the lines of like, this movie is all fan service. And it's just like, what do you expect? Exactly. What do you expect?
If a band makes a film, I mean, no one said that about Studio 666 when the Foo Fighters made their own movie, did they?
Yeah. Like this review pissed me off so much. But yeah, it was like along the lines of like, how dare you make a movie for the fans? And like they called like the interlude bits like little skits, and the skits didn't make any sense. And I'm like, have you seen anything from Ghost? Like Ghost like posts skits on their YouTube channel in the meantime, and this was just a follow-up to what they post on YouTube. So I'm not sure if, because this is a concert review, to keep it spoiler free, because there is a story here.
I'd keep it spoiler free then for other fans of Ghost who haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Although I figure it probably, if you're a fan of Ghost, you've probably seen this. Or
See, I mean, it's doing a limited release, so it's only showing like this weekend, and
it's actually showing in the cinema in the not my nearest one, but like a one that's like a half an hour drive away.
One thing that like I wish like was from my experience is that maybe because it was a concert movie, but in the cinema, people were kind of just sitting there quiet, and I was like, I've never seen rock and metal fans so subdued. And like I was hoping for a bit more atmosphere, because we had the Taylor Swift movie coming out. Sorry, we're mentioning Taylor Swift a lot on this podcast, I've noticed. you guys had a whole bit about her in the Bear episode. But when her movie came
that was
out,
worth it.
When her movie came out, the Eras Tour, they're like, the fans were like dancing around and like jumping and just vibing with the film. And I never thought, well, actually it makes sense that Taylor Swift fans would be more crazy than rock and metal fans. But like, just like people were just sitting there. I wasn't. I was vibing. I was having a great time, like singing along under my breath, because I didn't want to ruin anyone's like experience with my horrible singing. But I was just like, a bit more energy, people. Come on. Like, it's a concert movie.
It's a weird one. I'm trying to remember if I've ever seen a concert film in a cinema, and I don't think I have, because I just usually go to the concerts. It's a shame that when I saw Ghost, I didn't know anything about them at all. So I've seen them, and I say, not knowing any of the lore or any of the, I can see from, obviously as infused as you're about it, why that would be awesome to know all that stuff.
I don't think it's that important. I mainly like the music, but it's mainly that review that was very upset the fact that it had lore, and I'm like, well, that belongs to the band. But I also really like the last 3 albums have been absolutely incredible.
See, the only band I can think of that's similar that I really like at the minute, and we're staying on the music a bit apparently for a little, and it's a band called the Decemberists.
Ooh, never heard of them.
They are an indie rock folk band from Portland, Oregon, and they were actually in Portlandia a couple of times back in the day in like the because they're from that whole kind of scene. They're one of the biggest bands that no one's really heard of in terms of their 9th album's just come out. They've sold at least 7 odd million albums. And they've been on The Simpsons and all this, but they don't generally have hit singles. Some of the song titles are so bizarre. I remember there's a song called My Mother Was a Chinese Trapeze Artist. Or there's the Mariner's Revenge song. The Mariner's Revenge song, okay, before we get back onto TV, the Mariner's Revenge song is my all-time favourite song on theirs, and it's about a 15-minute long sea shanty that starts on an accordion. And it starts off telling the tale of these 2 guys having a knife fight, or is it a knife fight? Or just having a fight to the death in the belly of a whale. And then the song goes back to how they got there. And so it's like, it starts off, we are 2 mariners, a ship's sole survivors, in this belly of a whale. And then the whole song is this story of how this guy stepdad came in and took his mum's money, and then his mum died poor in the streets. Then as soon as he was old enough, he joined up on a ship and then went to sea looking for the guy. And then as he finds him, a whale attacks him. They both ended up in the... And this is a song, but it's a story. And at the gig, they don't do this in all the songs. They put a giant inflatable whale out over the crowd.
Wow.
And this was an indoor venue that only holds 2,000 people that we saw them at in Nottingham, at Rock City. There's a bit in the song where they go, and we cried as a giant whale, and he gets the whole crowd to scream like they're being devoured by the whale. It was awesome. Can't wait to see him again. They new albums out, so hopefully they're going to be here next year. And that was your music section of the We Need Heroes podcast today. Now,
Boom, boom, boom.
Next up, we're going to take a trip to the Emerald Isle, and I'm not talking about Oz, but Ireland. And I've really, really, really gotten into a lot of Irish shows recently. First up is Netflix's recent offering, Bodkin, starring Siobhan Cullen as Dove, a reporter for The Guardian, your favourite paper, Marie, whose last story goes badly wrong, and despite being from Ireland, she's sent back there when she really doesn't want to go there. And it's at her boss's request, she has to work with a top American true crime podcaster called Gilbert Power, and he's played by Saturday Night Live alumni Will Forte, and his assistant Emmy, played by Robin Cara. Now look, this looked right up my street. A group of podcasters go to Ireland and get involved in a cold case that, of course, then brings murder and mayhem. One of the original things people started saying was, it's going to be like Only Murders in the Building. It's nothing like Only Murders in the Building. But what, of course, happens is, when they start digging around in his story, it brings murder and mayhem to the modern-day residents of the small Irish town of Bodkin. And the trailer was really good. It made it look like a cross between The Wicker Man and Father Ted. I was like, there's a cult, there's definitely some cult stuff going on, and there's really rude old Irish ladies and kids. Love it. This is going to be awesome. I was really looking forward to this, but sadly for me, it's just fine. It's fine. And a fun fact for you, Jose, it's produced by the Obamas for some reason.
Interesting.
They've got into like film and TV production now, and this is one of their off their roster.
No one's as Irish as Barack Obama.
Right?
Have you heard that song?
No.
Is that a song? Right.
I need to send that to you. Yeah, because he's like most Americans, he has Irish descent from this little tiny town. I can't remember where it was. So they actually wrote an Irish folk song, and it goes, "There's no one as Irish as Barack Obama." It's brilliant. It's very Irish.
I love it. I love that.
I mean, I feel like that should have been part of the show now, but perhaps a bit too on the nose.
That title is awesome.
Yeah. So look, it's a frustrating show in that the central mystery is not actually that shocking or really that interesting. And as the show gets towards its conclusion, I didn't really care too much about the plot or where the story was going. And even now, having watched it only a few weeks ago, I can't remember who or what the main cold case mystery was because it just didn't stick in my memory. So I might sound like I'm really down on the show, but I really like the three main performances, despite not loving the story. Will Forte is just a brilliant comedian from his time on Saturday Night Live, but he is capable of definitely switching to drama. If you saw him in Alexander Payne's Nebraska, he was awesome in that, and he does the fish out of water American in Ireland role really, really well. It's a great comic effect. I mean, there's a bit in the trailer when he's standing there with his phone taking loads of pictures. He goes, "Oh, this is beautiful." Oh, and then this old lady pulls up, goes, "Do you know what I see? Shit. Fields of shit." And he's just the look on his face as she walks off. And that's kind of the tone of it. I was like, yeah, this is going to be good. But as we learn more about his character, you get a lot more on his background, and he gets to kind of flex his dramatic muscles as well. So it's not like an outright comedic performance. There's a young actress called Robin Cara, who I've never heard of before, and she's really good as his British assistant Emmy. She kind of hero worships Siobhan Cullen's character Dove, like the reporter. And although she's competent at her job, she's a bit of a walkover. And so her arc throughout the season is very similar to Carrie's on Extraordinaries, where she has to learn to be a bit more, take less shit off people as the story goes on. Finally, this brings to, for me, the star of the show, Siobhan Cullen, a young Irish actress that I hadn't seen in anything before. And she plays a disgraced reporter, Dove, who's currently on her last chance at The Guardian after messing up a big story. That scene where you see the big cock up is the opening scene of the show. Now, some reviews I've read and seen, they didn't like her performance because they said she was just too one note and just permanently dour, angry and sarcastic all the time. But that was fine for me because I think she's the best thing in the show. I love that her role is a type of role you normally get a man playing. The hard-drinking, grizzled reporter who'll do anything to get the story. And although initially she thinks she's on a crap babysitting job, once she gets a sniff of the real story, she'll manipulate, lie, and break the law all to get the story. And this kind of leads later on to a question of ethics between the main characters. Gilbert wants to do it all by the book, and she's like, no, fuck that. I want the story. We're doing it my way. And they have really different views on the way it's going to proceed. It's just a shame for me there isn't a more compelling story around these characters. And like I say, the trailer is not really representative because it is largely a dark comedic drama, and perhaps the trailer was designed to throw us off. But I would have much rather seen these actors and those performances in a show that had something to do with a cult and was a little bit more folk horror than what we got. I was expecting, is this going to be a thing where like the whole island are like in on it and like they're all like been lured it, like Wicker Man it, Midsummer it, something like that. So for me, it's a mild recommendation if you have the time. But if I hadn't watched Bodkin, then the almighty Netflix algorithm wouldn't have recommended to me another show called Obituary, because the image popped up like as the credits were finishing on that one on the last episode. And I thought, wait a minute, that looks like the same actress from Bodkin who played Dove. And the trailer also played, and I was in. So first off, have you guys seen Bodkin yet, or seen the trailer or anything?
No, I didn't catch that one.
Never heard of it. I feel like I'm letting down my Irish side.
Well, I was about to say, Bodkin was a Netflix original production, but the next show, Obituary, is actually made by RTE, which, as I basically understand, is like Ireland's version of the BBC.
Yeah.
Cool, got that one right. Yay! And as the trailer will show you, it is a hell of a great setup for the show. So, once again, the same actress, Siobhan Cullen, plays the amazingly named Elvira Clancy. That's a great name already. And she is a small-town obituarist who has always had a fascination with death since childhood. And she lives/takes care of her alcoholic father, Ward, played by this great actor called Michael Smiley. And if you've ever seen him in anything, you're like, oh yeah, he's the guy who played the psychopath. So he's in this. So you're like, oh great, he's always a psycho. And not long after getting her dream job at her local newspaper, which is salaried, so she always gets paid, they have to cut back, and her editor tells her she's only going to get paid per obituary. Now, when I told people this setup in my office, just as I've told you, every single person says, let me guess, what happens next?
She starts killing people.
Jose, I feel like you just read that off the script.
I was going to go, that's sinister. She makes stuff up.
Oh, no, I think you can't make up dead people.
She starts killing people.
I mean, you were right.
I did not expect that.
Oh, excellent. You're really going to enjoy the show then. In the best possible terms, this show feels like a female-led small-town version of Dexter, but back when it was really good. And unlike Dexter, she doesn't have a mentor to help her on the way, or she's also not police to cover up any of her crimes. So her path gets really complicated really quickly. And there's another similarity to the last show, Bodkin, because a new hotshot news reporter comes into town who's investigating a famous cold case. And that case has stumped the newspaper editors and Elvira's boss for years. So as I said, I liked Cullen's performance in Bodkin, but she's a million times better here, as is the writing. Her character of Elvira is so multi-dimensional. Like, she's troubled and dark, yes, but it's such a well-rounded role. She gets to play a lot more emotions because she has to hide the dark inward journey she's beginning to take, but also appear outwardly normal. She even smiles in this show, which she doesn't do, I don't think, at all in her Bodkin. And there is sterling support from the rest of the cast. There's David Ganley playing Huey Burns, the editor of the newspaper, and Elvira's boss, and he's haunted by this cold case from back in the day that he never solved when he was a reporter. The new news reporter in town is a guy called Emerson Stafford, and he takes the eye of Elvira, but also her best friend Mallory, played by Daniel Galligan, and that causes ructions between the best friends. I actually wondered where I'd seen Galligan before, the actress, and she played Nina Zenik in season 2 of Shadow and Bone on Netflix, if anyone's seen that.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm looking up the cast in case I know any of these people. Not to fall into the Irish stereotype that we all know each other, but I did go to a big national performing arts school in Ireland, so.
Oh wow!
So you probably do know half the cast, then, is what you're saying?
No, I just did a quick cross reference now, but yeah, no, the school was run by Colin Farrell's brother.
Nice. We're going to have to get into this some other time, Marie.
No, just a little fun fact about me.
There's going to be an episode where we just talk about our pasts, ships and acting and Ireland and all.
And Ben sorting out the brown M&Ms for
Wait,
all
what?
the rock stars.
Oh, yes.
Ben's job
Classic
sometimes
ser-
is to get rock stars to stage on time and in a sober enough state to play.
Right.
Makes sense.
Hence Wayne's World 2, when there's that whole bit about, was it Wayne's World 1 or 2, where the road is like, the whole speech where he's like, and then I had to get all the brown M&Ms out, otherwise Ozzy wouldn't go on stage. And then there's something about a Bengal tiger and beating someone to death with their own shoes. I forget that quote, and I used to know it inside out, man.
I think that's 2. I've never seen 2. So.
Okay, then yeah, I think that's in 2.
More required
But getting
reading.
back to Obituary, this is Cullen's show, and she is superb from start to finish. I like that she tries to establish a code like Dexter, where she'll only kill people who definitely deserve it. But try is the key word here, because she's not very good at it. I love that, bar the premise, the show is really unpredictable. As each episode, it's going to throw you a curveball, and you're like, well, how the fuck is she going to get out of that situation? And then they do it in a really clever way. It's really, really well written. And without giving away any more, the final scene of the series has an all-timer killer line that because you're waiting for the last line of the show, it's finishing off, and you're like, okay, this was a brilliant season, and the last line a character delivers, I was like, I can't believe they fucking just said that. That is awesome. It's one of the best last lines I've heard in a show.
Ooh.
And so honestly, you owe it to yourself to watch this show. And the creator of the show, Ray Lawler, actually commented on my tweet about the show when I put it out there after I finished watching it. And he just said, thanks for the kind words, which I thought was awesome. So,
future interview?
Potentially.
Yes.
I think maybe his DMs aren't open because I did drop him a DM because he follows us now on Twitter as well. But then he did respond to my tweet and I just said, well, season 2 when? I think I pretty much just said quite shortly and rudely on it. And then he said, it's written and they're planning to start shooting in September. And that is information I have not found anywhere else on the internet. So I think that might be an exclusive.
Sorry, I beat you to it.
We got to have that horn sound. Exclusive.
I'm going to get a better horn sound than that, Jose. I'll tell you that much, mate.
I'm just giving you ideas.
Yes, our first exclusive, I think, here on We Need a Road. So, all 6 episodes are on Netflix in the UK and Hulu in the States, Jose.
By the way, can you repeat the name of the show for our listeners and for myself?
The show is the name of a metal band that was really big in the 90s, Obituary.
Okay, for the record, I am mostly doing it for comedic effect.
Oh, okay.
I have a script.
I thought you'd actually forgotten then, and I was like, oh, damn. Is it gone too long already? And Jose's just like, he's waning.
I mean, technically, you are speaking about 3 shows, so I want to make sure people keep up.
Well, luckily now, Jose, I'm on to the 3rd one. And once again, rounding off my trifecta of Irish shows is another RTE show called Kin. And this has a massive cast. And it features Daredevil himself, Charlie Cox, Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, Aidan Gillen, who apparently is in every Irish show ever made, as I have found out. And it's got a veritable who's who of acting talent, such as Kieran Hines, Maria Dole Kennedy, who was from The Commitments, Emmett J. Scanlon, Sam Keeley, the terrifying Francis McAfee when you see him in the show, Yasmin Seki, Mallory from Obituary is in this as well, Daniel Gallagher, and finally an actress called Claire Dunn, who for me should be in everything going forward because I hadn't seen her in anything before this. She is pretty much the undoubted star of the show for me as it goes on. So, where the previous 2 shows were dark dramas with hints of comedy, Kin is just an out-and-out Irish gangland crime drama. It focuses on a feud between the Kinsella family and Kieran Hines' Eamon Cunningham. And in the first episode, one of Frank Kinsella's sons, Eric, tries to kill one of Eamon's dealers over a stupid petty feud. Let's just say tragic consequences occur because of this event. That puts the Kinsella family at war with Cunningham's massive operation. Now, I had completely missed this show when it came out because obviously we don't get RTE in England being England. But the BBC picked it up and put it on the iPlayer. And of course, it just come and went. But season 2 just dropped the other week in the UK. And obviously, having just finished Obituary, it's like, I must find more Irish crime shows to watch. This popped up. I was like, oh shit, Charlie Cox is in it. Aidan Gillen's in it. Yeah, that's the next one. And also I saw it, like, it said, oh, and it's got one of the other girls from Obituary in it. It's like, yep, maintain the link between all 3 shows. I binged all 16 episodes of it in about a week and a half with my dad as well. My dad loved it. I think this shows you how good the show is, that obviously it hasn't got the budget of like a big crime drama that you would normally get. So a lot of the show is people in rooms talking. But my God, the amount of dysfunction within the family, you wouldn't even need other problems with other drug gangs. You could just have the actual main family in it. And that would be enough because there's so much shit. So the head of the family is a guy called Brendan. And he comes into it more in the second series. He starts off series 1 in prison, and he is a fucking terrible, terrible person. When show starts, his brother Frank, Aidan Gillen, is currently in charge of the family, but he's seen as inefficient and weak because despite having a son, Eric, he's somewhat secretly gay. So like most of the family and most of the other gangsters know this. So because it's like this macho Irish...
Oh, wait, they know it or they don't know it?
They do know it. It's like an open secret. Like I think people know it, but he doesn't go around. He feels like he has to hide it, even though he's got a son. Also, in the first episode, we meet Brendan's son Jimmy and his wife Amanda. And there's a lot of people here to keep track of, but it's kind of good because we're going to be talking about House of the Dragon, and there's even more fucking people in that. And some of them even have the same names, which is ridiculous. But,
yes.
We then meet his wife Amanda, played by Claire Dunn, and Jimmy's brother Michael. Michael is played by Charlie Cox, Daredevil. He is a well-known killer of some renown whose nickname is the Magician because he makes people disappear. Ooh. And episode 1 is him coming home and getting out of jail. This is filmed in and around Dublin. The show just has this grey...
Sounds like Dublin.
What is the famous sports stadium there, the massive one?
Aviva Cork Stadium?
That's it, it's the Aviva one, yeah. That is... There's drone shots of that in almost every episode. And the way the show's edited together, it literally looks like they're just down the road from the Aviva Stadium where they live. Yeah, it makes Dublin just look grey, cold and dark. And I think, in fact, some of the negative reviews of the show have said, oh, well, they don't make it look like... And I was like, yeah, but it's a gangland drama. It's not supposed to look nice and, typical sunny, warm Irish. You know, it's...
Also, Dublin is cold, dark and wet. That's why I moved to Portugal.
And once again, we apologise to all our Irish listeners. Who would have known? It wasn't an mispronunciation, just Marie basically saying your country. No. I will stop there.
Neil. Implying so much.
Yeah, so the grey... Actually, I make it worse myself because I literally wrote, the show's grey palette nicely mirrors the main Kinsella family because they're all criminals. They're all murderers or drug dealers or money launderers. If you are in the family, you are a criminal. And the writers do such a great job of kind of getting you inside these characters. In fact, I would say the writing and the acting are the two main elements of the show that raise it above your typical crime drama. Charlie Cox's Michael's just got out of jail. All he wants to do is stay out of the family business because that's the only chance he's going to get to see his daughter. Cox plays the quiet role charmingly enough, but you also know if he gets pushed, he's probably going to be the most dangerous of all of them. Emlet Scanlon plays Jimmy, Michael's brother, and very early on, even in the first episode, it's hinted that Michael and Jimmy's wife had a previous relationship in the past. So you start wondering, is this going to boil to a head, or have they already taken care of it? What the script does really well, it kind of drops tiny landmines of plot everywhere. Because there'll be something that someone says the line, you're like, wait, did they just say that? Does that mean that? And then they drop it, and you're wondering whether but they've planted that seed in your head so well. And then that thread won't be mentioned again a little for a while. It's a show that really rewards paying close attention to it. It's definitely one to put your phone down for, Jose.
Hey.
That's fair, though, isn't it?
I feel like that was a targeted jab.
I think so, too.
Finally, on this, I will talk about Claire Dunn, who plays Jimmy's wife, Amanda. She works at the local car dealership. She washes the money for the family. And when the event of the first episode kicks off the war, her arc over the 2 seasons is phenomenal. You see her going from just the wife and just the mother to being the most devious and intelligent member of the family. And because the gangland scene is so patriarchal there, she has to be really clever to take control and do what she thinks is best for the family, despite usually being pitted against the family themselves. It's not just she's got to deal with all these other drug dealers and foreign criminals. She's got to deal with convincing her own family as well that she's the best person to do this job.
So the opposite of Breaking Bad. The wife is actually interesting.
No, because they are all criminals still. And no,
but I'm saying the wife in Breaking Bad, she ended up being very annoying.
Oh no, she's awesome. Amanda is amazing. She's probably the highlight of the show for me. Watching her development over the seasons, it's like watching the birth of Cersei Lannister. Because no matter how fucked up she does, so no matter how, obviously without the incest, although she potentially did shag her husband's brother. So there's
not really the same.
Not really the same as her own brother. Yeah,
cheating.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to get into House of the Dragon soon, so that's like...
we'll save the incest for then, yeah. Yes. So, basically, everything she does, no matter how fucked in the show, she excuses because it's for her family. Season 2 also ends on a hell of a cliffhanger, but sadly, there is no Season 3 yet. Because as you might know, Charlie Cox has been making the new Daredevil series for Disney+, and they were about 3 or 4 episodes into production when Marvel decided to junk the whole thing and start again. which
Rightly
sounds
so.
like a good idea because they've brought back Eldon Henson and Deborah Ann Wool. But again, after I watched this show, I put another post out on Twitter, and a fan commented on it and said, sadly, not yet, and that RTE hadn't commissioned it yet, despite it being one of their biggest successes, because obviously it was put onto BBC and on mainstream BBC because it was so good, and obviously with the cast. But then that fan, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who said it, tagged one of the show's directors, Diarmuid Goggins, who basically said the same. Also, another reason that we might, and also he's now following us on Twitter as well. So, hey, come on a podcast, guys. Talk about kin.
Yay!
So Jose sound more infused.
And I believe Charlie Cox is a wonderful human being. I've seen clips of him at cons and such. So I would love to have him interviewed on our podcast. Wink,
I mean,
wink.
who wouldn't?
Deborah Ann Wool plays Karen Page and Eldon Henson plays Foggy Nelson. So I'm glad to see them both be back.
I think everyone was. I think when they were doing the new Daredevil, I think Kevin Feige walked in and was just like, but you're 4 episodes in and he's not put the suit on yet. And you're making a lawyer drama as opposed to a Daredevil show.
Oh no, and that worked very well with She-Hulk.
I like She-Hulk.
I didn't hate She-Hulk.
Oh, I couldn't get through it. I'd watched like 3
Really?
episodes and I couldn't get through it.
Do you know what it reminded me of? It was Ally McBeal, but in half an hour. It was like a half an hour Ally McBeal with superpowers. I just thought it was so stupid. And honestly, the last ever episode of She-Hulk, because definitely not going to make another series, the way they took the piss out of everything Marvel was doing wrong was superb. They because obviously she breaks the fourth wall. And she was doing it before Deadpool, because I researched that when we did our She-Hulk 2 episode years back. I just remember in the finale, okay, so this is briefly a She-Hulk season 2, season 1, spoiler special. Just that in the finale, it's got Tim Roth's Abomination turns up, and then this big fight happens, and then you're watching all this stuff, and she's like, and she just pauses the show, and she's like, no, stop. This doesn't make any sense. Why would that character be doing that? Why would this be doing that? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And she goes into the writer's room at Marvel and tells them to write a better script. And then they go, oh, well, it's Kevin. And then she goes in and finds a robot called Kevin based on Kevin Feige.
Spelled slightly off of Kevin.
Yeah. I was like, this is awesome. But not exactly.
Yes.
But no one got to it because the first early episodes put them off. And I just liked it. I liked it because it was fun, it was short, it was stupid. I'm sorry, did you ever get up to the episode where Wong hangs out with his club girl? Wong from Doctor Strange. Madison with a Y, but not where you think.
We really thought they were gonna use Madison later on, and I'm still waiting to see Madison come up in either a different show or a movie, even if it's just a moment.
This girl, Madison Marie, she is basically gets warped to some demon dimension by accident by some magician whose stage show goes wrong, and then she just turns up having been out there for years and just starts hanging out with Wong in his flat.
And correct me if I'm wrong, were they kind of dating? I think they were. Oh, it was implied they were friends.
I think that's it. But everyone was just like, please bring her back. She was hilarious. She got a character poster, which for such a small role. Anyway, back off to She-Hulk and back on to... Oh, I was almost finished talking about Kin. How we got from Kin to She-Hulk? Charlie Cox. That's how we got there. Because he's in both, playing Daredevil in She-Hulk. Another reason we might not get season 3 of Kin anytime soon, sadly, is that the co-creator and writer of the show, Chris McKenna, is currently working on season 3 of... Jazz hands. Gangs of London, which after seeing Kin, I am massively excited about, because the best thing about Kin was the writing and the acting, and Gangs of London has that, but every year it kind of changes who the showrunners are. They've got some hotshot South Korean director in to do the action, termed with this guy. And also just now knowing that the guy who did that is doing another gangland crime thing that's established. Have either of you guys seen Gangs of London?
No.
It is really worth checking out. It is spectacularly violent. The first series was mostly written and directed by the guy who did The Raid. So for action and fight scenes, it's right up there. Then they have the idea that each season they change the showrunners and writers so that to keep it fresh. So season 2 was this Irish horror director. And so the sequences played out more like a horror film. But it was still a gangland drama thing. And what I liked about it was when the show was first pitched, they're like, oh, it's going to be a gangland London-based drama. I was like, oh, it's going to be like fucking Lock, Stock, isn't it? It's going to be like all cockney, all shit that I hate like that. And it wasn't. they had all the foreign gangs, so like the Albanians, the Turks, the Eastern Europeans, all the representation that you would actually expect to get of like a modern crime syndicate in London. This has been brought to you by the Irish Tourist Board, and we apologise for any mistakes and mispronunciations down the year. You've got 3 brilliant shows there. Keep making more of them. Even Bodkin. Although that would be kind of problematic because the same actress is in that and Obituary. She's probably going to be very busy doing one another. If you have to do one or the other, do Obituary. Jose, Manhunt.
Yes. Well, also let me just bring up. I have been watching a lot of other shows, but we're going to talk about them in more depth. One of them I didn't bring up to you, Neil, is The Regime. I saw the first episode.
So did I.
I think it's great. I think it's almost too smart because it's if you're not really paying attention, it's not one you can sit on your phone and kind of half watch. You have to pay attention.
This feels like a chap, Jose.
I mean, why are you on your phone in the first place? Why do you need 2 screens? I'm sorry, I don't understand you people.
It's modern times. Trust me. I mean, I'm not proud of it either, but it happens.
What do you mean either? I don't do it, Jose. I don't do it. That's why I go to cinema to see films and we're supposed to generally watch them at home.
But even then, oh my god, the amount of people these days who have their phone on in the cinema, it drives me crazy.
I will be the person who asks them to turn it off.
I've seen men go into a stall, like standing up and using the restroom while looking at their phone. This
happened at the gig. That's why the fucking queue for the toilets was so long. Everyone was on the phones in the queue. So then they didn't see the queue move forward. And then people were on their phones, were having a piss in the queue. It's the only time I've ever been to a gig at Limp Bizkit where the men's queue was longer than the women's. I was like, how? How has this happened? Fuck you, phones. That's what's happened.
Yes. So yes, I wanted to shout out The Regime. I think if you like smart shows.
Do you know what though, Jose? I watched the first episode and I've not gone back.
Really? I mean, granted, I was very tired, so I thought maybe it was too slow for the being tired, but I do want to see where it goes.
We watched it on a Saturday night, like, early-ish, and I had the next episode and was like, should we watch something else? And then we watched a show we're going to be talking about later afterwards, which I won't spoil now, but we'll spoil it then. Basically, with the Regime, Jose, I mean, Kate Winslet is brilliant in everything, as obviously she is, but I read from some of the reviews, in fact, I hadn't seen one good review of it, and they said it wasn't worth kind of continuing. And usually I will watch something, but because I watched it, and I think this is what people should do, right? If you watch a show and you don't like it, don't post it. Oh, it was rubbish and all that crap. Just, it's not for me. Because I can tell you The Regime is a good show with good performances. I just didn't get it. I just didn't appeal to me. I was like, I'm going to watch something fun.
For me, I think it's definitely one of those shows, it's going to build on the initial episodes and what they give you. Because where did this guy come from? Like the initial secondhand guy who's replacing other people. And there's this lore that they've already built up just from secondary characters talking about it.
Brent Spiner's in this.
Yes. I mean, there's a couple of actors that
No, he's not. No, that was a joke, Jose. That was a lore joke. Lore? That is a Star Trek joke. Come on, I've been waiting to make that. When people have been saying lore for ages, I feel like if I have to explain it, no, I'm not going to explain it. Brent Spiner is lore. There you go. That's what
keep going with it.
If you know, you know. If you know, you know.
But going back to Manhunt, I think it's a really also.
You didn't even start Manhunt. Tell me about Manhunt, Jose.
Manhunt.
What channel is it on?
It is on.
It's Apple TV Plus.
I watch Apple
TV.
It myself. Sorry, I have like 5 different streaming sites that I go to, so I can't remember where I see it. Apple TV, Amazon,
okay.
Disney Plus, and Hulu. That's 4.
Jesus.
Okay. We share passwords, so
we've got Prime Video, Netflix, Disney Plus, and Apple. Yeah.
So if you're
Paramount
a fan
Plus
of...
can sack a fat one.
So if you're a fan of Masters of the Air, you'll recognize one of the main actors in Manhunt. It's basically a show about the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, and Anthony Boyle. Honestly, is actually starting to grow on me quite a lot. And when I saw him in Masters of the Air,
like a boil.
Like a boil, pun intended, right?
Yeah.
When I saw him on Masters of the Air, he was a secondary character that grew to be a very integral part of the story. And I thought, okay, this is pretty cool. He's a good actor. But then he plays John Wilkes Booth. And in the first episode, they showed everything happening right away. And I was like, man, even though he's a villain, he's very charismatic. Obviously, his role, John Wilkes Booth was an actor, so he had to be charismatic. And I feel like Anthony Boyle has a lot of potential for whatever else he does. So I'm really interested to see what he does. Tobias Menzies.
Tobias Menzies, yeah.
He plays Edward Stanton, a guy who is very close to Abraham Lincoln, who is there for his death, and he's actually the guy that takes he takes the lead in investigating the whole situation. And what I found out from my brother-in-law is at the time there was no Secret Service, which is why a friend of Lincoln's was in charge of investigating the whole thing. And this is what led to the creation of the Secret Service, if I'm not 100% incorrect.
Oh,
And
cool.
and there's a lot of good actors in this. Not many names that I really recognize, except for Patton Oswalt, you know. And then there's actually also, if you're a Star Trek fan, John Billingsley plays Joseph Holt. So if you're especially if you're a fan of Deep Space Nine, he was in that.
Nice.
But I think as far as like historical dramas go, this is actually really interesting. It jumps back and forth in time.
How many episodes of it have you seen, and how many are there?
I've seen one. But it's actually really good. It kind of like, it doesn't push back the death of Lincoln. It just happens in the first episode, and so I could see that the rest of the episodes are going back in time and see how it unfolded.
It's on my list, but it's kind of in the middle of my list because I wonder how you can drag that same story out for 8 to 10 episodes if it happens in the first one.
Like, I've had other shows where it's like, how are they going to do this? And they do it properly. And I think this is one of those shows that does it properly.
I think you might have already hinted at where it's going, Jose. I think like it probably is going to be about the setup for the Secret Service. Yeah. So I think that's probably where the show's going to go, and a bit more into sort of the lawyers side of things.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, we've got another show to talk about now, and we are now in our spoiler section.
This is your spoiler alert.
Next up, I wanted to talk about one of the most fun shows I've seen this year. Probably it's the most fun show I've seen alongside Fallout this year. And this show almost bypassed me on Disney+. Yet Marie was telling people about it for ages beforehand. And that is a sequel series to Oliver Twist, focusing on the character of Jack Dawkins, the Artful Dodger, whose luck ran out at the end of Dickens' tale, and he was sent to Australia as a criminal. This story puts him front and centre, picking up Jack's story 15 years later, where, after getting medical training at sea, he's now become a skilled surgeon of some renown and has managed to hide his past quite well. That is, until an old friend, and I'll use that word loosely, Fagin, arrives to try and get Jack back to thieving again. The ageless Thomas Brodie Sangster plays Jack Dawkins with some youthful verve, and he gives a great central performance as a man with a criminal past he's trying to keep away from. And honestly, giving an all-time performance. I mean, David Thewlis is amazing in everything he's in, but he was born to play this role. I could not see any other actor being Fagin. He's manipulative, he's hilarious, and throughout the show you never know if he's actually looking out for Jack or just his own best interests. As the thumbnail on Disney and the trailer remind us, though, this also has a romance at the centre of the story between Jack and the highborn governor's daughter Belle, played by Maya Mitchell. And she really gave me early Keira Knightley vibes in a good way. Like, kind of reminded me of like the character from Pirates of the Caribbean a little bit. She's clever, she's sparky, and unlike her sister Fanny, has no interest in marriage or men, only medicine. And she doesn't just want to be a nurse, she wants to be a surgeon herself. And she basically blackmails Jack into training her. So, of course, they grow closer as the show goes on. And the romance progresses nicely. But shock horror, she has an unidentifiable medical condition. That's definitely going to come back later in the series. So, as Fagin gets more comfortable, he begins to commit more crime, and then he keeps slowly pulling Jack into his previous life as well. And this brings him to the attention of the pious Captain Gaines, played by Damon Herriman, who has a habit of hanging people first and, well, not asking questions later because he's hung them. On paper, this show shouldn't work at all, right? It's a sequel to a Dickens novel. They've changed the lead from Oliver Twist to Jack Dawkins. It's part gory medical drama, then it's a period romance, and then, music-wise, they put modern-day Aussie rock in there. But also, it's wildly entertaining and fun, and just career-best performances, I think, from all the cast.
I was just going to say, it works so well. Like, all the elements come together.
I had never seen the actress who plays Belle before, Maya Mitchell, and I would definitely be keeping an eye out for whatever she does next.
Yeah, I've actually been aware of her for a while. She was in The Fosters.
Okay, I'm not familiar. What's The Fosters?
The Fosters. This is going back to my teen drama days. It's a series about foster children, and she plays like a troubled teen.
So what? She's pushing 40 now, and she just because she's Australian, she looks like 20 years younger.
The Fosters came out
2013 to 2018, according to Google.
Oh, okay, so she's probably mid-20s then now.
She was born 1993, and she's 30 years old currently, according to Google.
Honestly, Australians, man, you can just knock 10 years off how old you think they are when you see
Yeah.
them. And that's in real life as well, man. I work with loads of Aussies. They always look young. I think it's just the sunshine and the surfing and the Fosters. And I'll
salt
stop now
water.
before I offend all the Australians. Actually, we only have one Australian listener, to be fair.
Hey, we got to cultivate that one Australian.
Yeah, and next time the analytics go to 0.
There we go. If you're that Australian, the rest of us really appreciate you listening from all the way over there. Also, send us a message on X to tell us who you are.
But I've got to shout out her sister. Her sister, Lady Fanny Fox, which again, what a name for a character. Played by Lucy Rose Leonard, and she plays Belle's sister. And Jose, she has one mission in life, and it's to find a good husband. And she is hilarious. I could have watched a whole period drama just with this character's love life woes. When you see us like a side character who just steals every scene, that's what the sister is. She's so good in it.
Nice.
But I have a question, and Marie, maybe you can ask this one. Why does no one sound Australian in it except the Aboriginal characters?
Well,
Oh,
isn't
wow.
it because...
Are they all supposed to be English out there, or?
Yeah, because isn't it a penal colony?
Ah.
Yeah, it's a penal colony. So, like, basically, you know, like,
There we
that's
go. That makes
where,
sense.
like, the English and sent all of their prisoners.
Made a mistake there, didn't we? We should have just gone there ourselves.
We? You?
Yeah, so, okay, that explains that one. Yeah, that was the one thing I was, like, not 100% on. Later on, and this is the big twist, the Oliver twist, if you will, Jose.
Oh.
Oliver Twist turns up in it in the penultimate episode.
The wet lettuce.
Yeah, the episode is called The Wet Lettuce. And it's like, what the fuck's this episode about? And then you're like, oh, it's... They don't like that. Let's just say Jack and Fagin are not fans of Oliver.
Oh.
And then the twist is, you can't have Oliver Twist in it without a twist. He's the criminal mastermind who's been ripping off a bunch of gold that Fagin was trying to do the deal on, which is just brilliant.
Oh, man.
I mean, I just love the balls of the show to just do that. I was like...
So it does it justice. Okay.
I just love when, like, Dodger and Fagin are discussing Oliver Twist, and it's just... like the comment, the wet lettuce comment always sticks in my mind. Like, the wettest of lettuce.
One thing this show has as well is really gory surgery scenes. There's a
Yeah.
surgery scene every episode, but it's weird. They operate in people in like an open room, so people pay money to come in and watch the operations being done. So it's like this whole showmanship thing. Ladies and gentlemen, today you're going to see us attempt this, and it's just like, what? My mum could not watch those scenes. Like, every time there was a surgery scene, she's like had to cover her eyes and then ask us when it was over.
Yeah, I'm like that. I can't really handle gore that much. And I also recommended the show to my parents, and both of them. And I was like, I warn you, it is a medical drama, but trust me, there's also a really cute romance. So you're going to like that part.
Oh.
But I'm also a massive fan, like, because I was trying to play some music and I thought it was Jack White. It's not. It's Wolf Mother. And they've literally got every Aussie rock band you can think of in it. Wolf Mother, Jet, and a brilliant band that I think Ben knows these guys, The Living End, and their song, Prisoners of Society. One, it's a fucking amazing track. It's the band's best known song. But again, it's perfectly set in the show. Like the music, the lyrics, everything. When I heard that, I was just like literally rocking out in my chair watching the show.
Nice.
I was like, what? Brilliant use of the song.
Like the first 10 minutes are like so good because it's like the editing as well.
Oh,
it's
yes,
like
it's-
edited so well to the music. I honestly don't like, because I saw this when it came out. You know, I have to say, like, the way I found it was like a compilation video of the love interests on like
Oh,
YouTube
right.
Shorts, and like
Hey.
me like going like seeing that, I was like, okay, that looks like something right up my alley. What is this show? It looks extremely cheesy. I love it. And then I started, and I was like, holy shit, this is good.
Yeah.
I have to confess, I did not realize this, like, because I did not study Dickens at school, and I saw the Oliver Twist movie like once as a child and got scarred by it. So I mentally blocked that. So I wasn't aware of the characters at all. And only until like episode 2, I realized this was a spin-off, and I was like, oh.
I watched the whole show, right, and enjoyed it. I knew it was based on those characters, but I didn't know that Oliver Twist ended with Dawkins getting sent to Australia. I mean, I might not have been paying attention at the very start of the show, but it doesn't. When the show starts, Jose, episode 1, it literally starts with like, isn't it a chase scene through the streets where
Yeah,
because there's a card
gambling.
game and he's gambling, yeah, and he owes money, and they're going to chop one of his hands off, And they say, well, which? And that's it. Fagin goes, well, which one? He goes, oh, my choice. Oh, well, that's something at least.
Yeah, I saw that in the trailer. I thought it was actually pretty good. That was a good line.
The trailer, yeah. I mean, the trailer is. This is an example when a trailer is a really good example of what the show is. Like
Nice.
the action, the surgery, the romance is done really well in it. I just, yeah, it's a fun show. It's really fun. Sadly, it was only ever planned as a one and done because the finale, like one of the through lines plots of the show is the main reason, the main driving force that Belle wants to become a surgeon is she's got a problem herself, some medical thing that keeps getting misdiagnosed, and they're like, no, it's fine, it's not that. And she's like just spending all her time reading medical journals, and she kind of self-diagnoses what the problem is. And of course, there's only one person who can do the operation.
Herself?
Herself, yes,
No,
yes,
she's
Jose.
not that advanced. Well, she figures it out.
She figures it out, and then she has to teach him how to do it, though. She has to teach Jack how to do it. And then he's like, this is really fucking dangerous.
I know. This sounds like a great
it's a really good show, man.
Plot, yeah.
I would watch this, and I'd also watch Renegade Now, which I think I mentioned on a previous one a little while ago, because that's kind of got stuff in common. That's got a bit more sort of magic and supernatural stuff to it. Have we talked about that before yet, Marie? Renegade Now?
No, I've never heard of it.
Disney Plus. It's Orla from Derry Girls in the lead, and it throws me because she's got an Essex accent and she's not Irish in it, so that really throws me. She's a highwaywoman who has to go on the run with her sisters because she's accused of a crime she doesn't commit, a bit like the A-Team, but not really. And then she gets superpowers from a fairy played by Nate from Ted Lasso, who gives her powers, and then suddenly she can like knock bullets out of the way. There's a whole like dark magic storyline going on. So it's like a supernatural period drama action show that is female fronted. It's very good. And I think
Highly
season 2 of
recommend.
that is being planned. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, that sounds something like right up my alley.
Yeah. Right, and there you go. That's another recommendation. We have a happy ending at the show. He saves her life, and it's kind of happy ever after. Although they do kind of like put a little joke scene. I feel like it's more a joke scene at the end, where it then cuts to Fagin and Jack back in prison again. And I thought this was more like a for fun last scene rather than a definite hint that they're going to do a second series. I mean, the story's kind of like done, I think. But also, I'd love to see a second series because I love the characters.
See, I'm usually never push for like a season one, especially when the showrunner says, "Okay, this is the story." But I do think there's room. I do think there's room for a second season.
You could always escape from prison.
Oh, they've already done it multiple times in the show already, man. It's not. That's why it's kind of like. That's why I feel like it's a joke at the end. It's not like
because the way Fagin gets into Dodger's care is you can like have a prisoner as your servant. And the way the show ends, that Fagin becomes a free man, but then Dodger doesn't. So it's implied that Dodger will become Fagin's servant. And I would love to see that dynamic. Like,
oh, interesting.
I mean, all the supporting characters in it. I could easily watch another season of Fanny Fox's Romance Woes, which is just hilarious.
A spin-off off a
she
spin-off?
doesn't have much luck.
Poor girl.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, so give us season 2, you cowards. Come up with it. You took Oliver Twist and made it better. So hey, go. I know I'm saying it. Yeah, you
did not traumatize me this time.
Yeah. Well, speaking of traumatizing and shows with horrendous sound effects, it's time for House of the Dragon. Cue the spoilers. Now,
it was literally going through my head.
So we are going to talk the House of the Dragon premiere episode because we've only seen the first one at this time of recording. And oh dear, we are really going to miss David here because I honestly could not remember who was who and what the hell was going on other than, and yes, I did have to look up the names just to write this next bit as well, that Rhaenyra's son Lucerys was eaten by the one-eyed son of the Queen, Aemon's dragon, kind of by accident because he didn't really mean to do it, but big fuck-off dragon was hungry, and then everyone's expecting a war to break out. That's like the basic terms of how season 1 ended.
Yes.
And I totally missed this episode, of course, as well. It's titled Blood and Cheese. And so when David messaged me, David isn't watching this show until it's all aired, so he can watch it and binge it in one go. But he's also read the book, so he knows all the spoilers. That's probably good we don't have him on, because he'll forget if it's in the show or something he read, and then we'd have to murder him ourselves.
Because we want to be surprised.
But David did ask me, he messaged me and goes, "Oh, was there lots of blood and cheese?" And I was like, "What are you going on about? I have no idea I hadn't even checked. When I saw it, I didn't even know the episode title was that." it was only obvious to me once I'd read other reviews of it online. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I remember some people were posting emojis of rats on their comments.
Yeah, I was
So-
like, what? And cheese. And like, that's why
Yeah,
we have a Facebook Messenger thread for the podcast. And David changed the thing to a cheese, the emoticon to a cheese. And I was like, why has he done that? It was like an acolyte thing or something. I had it. I think I had a lightsaber or something. I was like, why have you done that? Anyway, I thought the first episode was kind of slow, like really slow paced, but it had to be to remind us all, one, who all the characters are, and two, who are the ones we actually need to really concentrate on for the new plot lines going forward. Jose, what did you think of the pace?
you know, it's funny because I didn't think it was that slow. Like, yes, it was slower than some of the more.
My mum fell
Crazy.
asleep watching it.
I mean, I feel like there's been other episodes in the first season that were a lot slower. I just thought, okay, this is another episode where we're kind of reintroducing all the characters. I didn't notice it being particularly slow outside of the normal slower episodes. So I thought it was fine, honestly.
Marie?
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think many people forget that about Game of Thrones in general, that there are slower episodes. I mean, it is like, to quote Ben from Parks and Recreations, they're telling human stories through a fantasy setting. But
Nice.
I've seen Parks and Rec way too often. But no, I thought it was good. And I agree with you because, like, you have to like reestablish yourself in this world and who are the powers that at play. But I think it also like fits the story because it kind of fits what Rhaenyra is going through in that episode.
Yeah. She's barely in it as well, and you're just waiting, and like everyone's kind of holding their breath, waiting for what's she going to do next.
Well, it wasn't until, I realized I did see that after the episode guide, and she only had one line in the whole episode.
But I mean, Emma and Darcy, an absolute talent, even though they only had one line. You could still feel the grief, and just all that acting was in their face. It was amazing. And I still think they were the focal point of the episode, even though Rhaenyra was barely in it.
Well, yes, it's like we said in it, it's because everyone's waiting on what she wants to do.
Yeah.
And she just runs off on her dragon afterwards, and Damon's trying to hold down the fort, and the show actually starts with the wall. And then you hear the northern like accent at the start, and it's like, is this a Stark? And it was Lord Cregan Stark. And then, of course, because I forgot at the end of the series, Rhaenyra sent out her sons to get forces together. And so her eldest son, Jace, was there for the Starks to get their support for Queen Rhaenyra. And he's like, yeah, we'll support you, but we can't spare the men because we got the wall, the wildlings, and weather, and also winter is coming. I was like, yeah. Do we need the winter is coming?
I was about to say, because like I'm curious if we're going to revisit the wall throughout the season, because I mean, we know like the White Walker's not going to come for a very long time. So
about another 200 years, yeah.
Exactly. I was like, so like the tension is kind of gone. So I'm curious if we're going to revisit the wall. I'm hoping we're not, because it was the focal point of Game of Thrones, and
season 1 of House of the Dragon, it was pretty much all in court, wasn't it? The whole show took place in the one location, more or less. You had a couple of bits where there would be battles elsewhere they were showing, but for 99% of the show, it all took place in King's Landing, didn't it? So I read a good review on Forbes, actually, about the first episode, and they said, even 200 years earlier, literally nothing has changed in the landscape of Westeros. It's still the same families and bloodlines fighting for dominance. It's just that when Game of Thrones starts, there's not even any dragons left anymore.
Yeah. I mean, the Lannisters are nowhere to be seen. They're like little, very small.
Was there a cousin that was they mentioned briefly in season 1?
They mentioned briefly, yeah, but they're not as like the powerhouse that they are.
Established yet.
Can you remind me who the Lannisters are?
Cersei and Jaime Lannister, the incest twins.
Okay. Remember, I didn't see Game of Thrones, so.
But then what drew you to House of the Dragon?
My sister and her husband.
We told him to. Oh, okay.
And I mean, I've always wanted to watch Game of Thrones. It's just it is very intimidating because of all the characters.
It's only like 80 hours.
And only the first 4 seasons are good.
Oh, that's controversial because I heard.
No,
there's
it's
6
not.
or-
The last season of Game of Thrones is pure trash.
Wait,
I am
how many are there?
sorry.
8? I heard the last 2 are a steady decline, but 7's worth watching to some degree. 8, I know that everyone hates 8, but you said 4 seasons. That takes away 2 of the good ones from most people.
I mean, because I think I might be because like they are a beast and I've seen them a while back, but there's like at a certain point they catch up to the books, and after that it just
Yeah.
goes downhill because they don't have the books to reference and they're just like freeballing it, and it's so obvious.
The main complaint with the last couple of seasons, especially the last season, Jose, is that the time speeds up too much. They wouldn't be able to get where they're going.
Yeah,
Oh, I
talk about
see.
pacing that drove me crazy. Characters were
Yeah.
just teleporting all over the place.
Right, Marie, I'm going to have to bring you back on this because we are going to do an episode about Game of Thrones at some point.
Oh,
and
okay. I've got opinions.
David has already been scripting it. And from what I've heard, I think you and David share those opinions. I am not as down on it as other people seem to be. This could be the episode then, right? Jose, come back and let us know when you've watched all 80 hours of the show. And then David has already written out like his bullet points of what he wants to talk about. And I said, David, it cannot just be you saying fuck Dan and David for 2 hours. It can't be. He even started doing that on our Free Body Problem spoiler special because he got annoyed by them on that. I was like, I had to rein him in.
I mean, if you invite me on, I will be doing the same thing.
I'll definitely jump on.
I will have to be the voice of reason then, won't I? Or the voice of calmness.
Maybe I'll watch it with like knowing eyes, and then I'll be like, the ending wasn't that bad, seeing as I was expecting it to be worse. And then you guys will just jump on me.
Exactly.
Because the same thing happened with How I Met Your Mother. I never saw the.
Sorry, I've got. We're gonna go off in a tangent, so I'm not gonna do it. But I've got opinions about How I Met Your Mother.
I watched. Yeah,
I'm going to bring it back now to House of the Dragon, and
now we know topics for later.
Now I liked how Aegon tries to be a good king, like his father was.
Yeah,
like when he's listening to the small folk, because when he was in the scene before in the small chambers, I was like, he seems a bit of a dick still. But then, like when his kid was like tormenting the guy, and Jaehaerys was tormenting the guy, I was like, that's quite cute. That's quite adorable. Actually, that's kind of fun. Like let him play with you. Do you want to piggyback? But there was a bit of malice to the "Do you want to piggyback" ride?
Definitely.
There was a bit of malice.
I don't know because like it's a quite serious situation. Like they're about on the brink of civil war. So
and he'd rather be playing with his kid than actually running the kingdom, isn't he? So this is where the title of the Blood and Cheese comes from. And again, I didn't know this till I was researching. Blood is a disgraced. Well, I guess it's what they're referred to as in the book. Blood is a disgraced former city guardsman, and he's the one who lets in the Ratcatcher guy. So Ratcatcher, cheese, blood and cheese. And they're employed by Matt Smith's vengeful daemon to kill Aemond, if I've got this right, who was responsible for Lucera's death. And of course, they're told a son for a son. Mm-hmm. Of course, plans change on the fly. They end up in the room where King Aegon's wife, Helena, arrives with the king's children. And they demand... And his sister, that's it. And they demand her to tell them who is the son and which one, and choose which one dies. Otherwise, they will kill all of them. But then they almost guessed, she's going to lie to save her favourite. And then they kill the other one anyway. And they kill Jaehaerys. And they flee with the child's head.
It's crazy.
And it's the sound effects.
That was bad. But it's crazy because they were like, I want the guy with the one eye who's also a good swordsman, so be careful. And then they decide to go after a child instead. I'm like, I think they kind of messed up on that.
Shit the bed on that one. They're dead. Yeah. They're so dead.
That's the whole thing about the series. It's just fuck up after fuck up after fuck up.
Yes, yes.
This is like, I don't think Daemon is going to be happy about this result. Like, it's just one of those like where you think, let's just one thing go right, but no.
And I think that's why the episode needed to be slow to build up to that moment, and that's what Game of Thrones, when it's at its peak, does. It's if it's a slow episode, something's coming. There's going to be like a holy shit moment. If it's all like starts with action, then okay, it might be a bit more slower pace towards the end or for the next episode. They used to have this thing, Jose, where the second to last episode of the series would be the shocker and not the last one, and then the last episode would deal with the big events from the surprises. Yeah. So when you get around to it, episode 9 of seasons 1 and 2 are just fucking right up there. They're 2 of the greatest episodes you'll see, man. Mm-hmm. And of course, the final line of the episode is when Helena bursts into her mother's chambers. And so when did Christian start shagging the Queen? Because
I honestly, I think it's now. I think this is the first time we've seen it. Because I think she was quite loyal to her husband, even though he was like a corpse
so
in a
too.
bed.
Yeah.
So I think that
fair.
Because I also don't remember season 1 the little details as well, but I think it's now.
I was wondering, I wondered whether there might be a look or something, or like a slight just in court or something in the first series. But then again,
when that scene happened, I was like, you fucking hypocrite. Like, you gave her so much shit about this. Like, Renee Ara, and he as well. He's like, oh, you took my virtue. How dare you? And now he's just flinging it all around the place.
And then earlier in the episode, she even said, we shouldn't do this again. And then boom, at the end of the episode.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that was going to happen.
Yeah. Like,
I think Olivia Cook's superb. I saw her in. Did you ever watch Slow Horses?
No.
Oh, that's another recommendation.
But I can tell she's a great actress. She plays subtleties, and when she was lighting the candles and she said the name of the other boy who died.
Yeah.
I thought that was really a good touch.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's such a shades of grey. It's shades of murder on each side, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
No one's out and out. No one's really the out and out villains in it. Like, in Game of Thrones, the Starks were generally the good guys. Yeah. The Lannisters were the bad guys, and everyone else was all kind of on a sliding scale. But on this one, they're just murdering children on both sides outright, which and
they're just doing their best.
I'm Team Targaryen. Like, I don't like the high towers.
That's it. One episode done.
Yeah.
So
Next
far,
week.
Just start all the madness.
I'll have to give David a message and say, David, oh no, because he's not watching it. He's going to watch it. We'll have to have him on for the spoilers discussion of the whole series as a whole once it's done then. Because he will know all the names and that will save me a fuckload work in scripting it and planning it. I'll be like, David, who was that person? Oh yeah, it was so-and-so. Right.
Who's the guy with the pale blonde hair?
He is the guy who's got a sword. He's got a collection of swords in his room now, hasn't he?
He's got his dragon?
Yeah. He's I'm not quite sure what house David is, but House Long doesn't really work. Although he did rename himself as Sir David of House Long on our chat.
That's not bad. That's not too bad.
Well, I went for Sir Neelos of Gregos, so
there we go.
And then Jose put something that was not connected to it at all, missing the Game of Thrones references.
Yeah, you can tell I haven't seen the show.
We could tell by that, yeah. Right, moving on. Next up in the spoiler zone, we are talking the first 4 episodes of the new Star Wars show, The Acolyte. And again, this feels weird talking about this without Ben here, but he's off being a rock star, so tough shit. He can come on and talk to us about the end of the show and what he thought about it at the end. Because he's going to be a lot more into the lore of the show. And from the discourse, this is what's annoyed a lot of the people. But first of all, the latest Star Wars show, The Acolyte, has landed. And we are halfway through the series as we record this today. The show is set around 100 years before the Phantom Menace at the end of the High Republic era. And it sees respected Jedi Master Sol, played by Lee Young-Ye, investigate a series of murders that bring him into contact with a former Padawan learner called Osha, played by Amanda Stenberg. So, the big revelation in the first episode is that everyone thinks Osha is the murderer. Before the twist is revealed, she has an identical twin who everyone thought was dead. Yeah.
Almost like a telenovela.
There we go.
Yeah. So the idea of the show is that after a fire at her home as a child, Osha is taken in by the Jedi and trained till at some point she walks away, which we haven't had yet. And it's only when her twin sister arrives on the scene with a hit list of 4 Jedi to kill that Osha gets pulled back into the fray. First, obviously, she's accused of the murder. And then once it's proven that, oh, no, wait, there she is over there. But she can't be in 2 places at once. Oh, the twin sister's alive. Despite Sol knowing there was a twin sister. But he's like, oh, but I thought she was dead. If you don't, but then he believes she was innocent. So I was like, this Sol already, you're losing the plot, Sol, in the first episode. You're already like getting shit wrong, man. I like that the evil sister, May, she has a master who's trained her, who we don't know yet. We just have that one scene at the end of the first episode where they're just like, just get it done or something. I can't even remember what the phrase was. It wasn't that.
Well, they just show off the cool cosplay costume for everyone to start making right now.
What I like is she's working with Manny Jacinto, what's his name from The Good Place? Who's the dumb mask guy from The Good Place? What's his name?
Jason.
Jason from The Good Place. Yeah. He is a smuggler called Quimir, and everyone is speculating who the master is and if it's anyone we know as well. So look, cast-wise, and again, this comes back to the Bodkin thing, where I think the cast are actually really good in this. The acting's good. Like Amanda Stenberg playing the dual roles of Osha and May is really good, but I audibly groaned when I learned the plot involved twins, because someone's just sat there in like the writing room going, "Oh, that's great. What if we have twins? Because we got like duality in the Force, and one can be good and one can be evil." And it's a tired trope for a reason. I think even if they'd held off the reveal for a bit, it might have been done better. But it feels like they knew that it's a bad trope and they just wanted to get it out of the way as quickly as possible. There is a character who is hilarious, Yord, the shirtless buff Jedi guy. And he's hilarious because he's such a by-the-book Jedi Knight that he's kind of a dick and he plays the role really well.
I don't think he comes off as charming at all. I think he comes off
as a dick.
I don't think he comes off as a dick. I think he just comes off as
chode.
He's inept. He's trying to be by the book, but he's doing it in a stupid way. He's trying to be bigger than who he is. He is a Jedi.
Yeah, he's a Jedi master as well. That's what I don't get. Like, how can he be a master?
He's a master. Yeah, he seems like he's still like a Padawan.
Yeah.
And it's like his Padawan is actually more nuanced than him.
Like you say, you've got Daphne Keane, who was she's amazing. She played X-23 in Wolverine in Logan, the young girl in Logan. That's her, yeah.
Whoa.
Same actress, yeah. Playing again, Star Wars name generator, Jackie Lon. And she is Sol's current Padawan. And she's excellent. But again, she has so little to do so far in this series. We're halfway through the series, and all she's done is just have a couple of lines here and there. She's got no character other than seeming more competent than the rest of them. That's it.
Yeah, that's the weird thing is she's a Padawan, but she's actually the one that speaks to some people that she shouldn't be speaking to.
Yeah.
The main Jedi Master should be speaking. But
because she's
just
better
really
than them
weird.
already.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the complaints of the show. Some of the fans are really just like, but the Jedi are supposed to be the good guys. They can't have done anything bad or wrong, and they clearly have in this show. We haven't had like the full revelation of what it is yet. Also, again, they've spunked up and completely wasted a brilliant idea here. There's a character called Kalnaka who is a Wookiee Jedi. Right, you've got a Wookiee with Jedi powers, and he's just living out, chilling on his own forest planet. But they kill him before he does anything, and you're like, well, what was the point? Like, you've got a Jedi Wookiee, and you didn't utilize that once. I think, didn't he like scare off some people who were looking near his house? That was it. I was like, oh, great. He's not a character. You're just like, oh, god damn it. Episode 3 is the controversial one. It's a flashback episode to 16 years earlier when Osha and May are living with an all-female coven of witches on a planet called Brendok. Their mother and the coven's leader, Mother Anasea, claims the twins do not have a father, so they used the Force to basically make their twin daughters. And they're carried by another witch, Mother Coral. So Anasea teaches that the Force, which the witches' coven call the Thread, they say the Jedi misuse it. So they're like really anti-Jedi, but they don't generally seem like evil witches.
Yeah.
And then there's like a whole singing ceremony, which is really bad, to induct the two youngsters into the coven. And one of the sisters is really excited for it, but one of the ones isn't. And right before the ceremony takes place, the 4 Jedi arrive, and they express concern that they're training children. And they claim the right to test the twins for the suitability to become Jedi. Fortunately, no one mentions the word midichlorians. But I thought they were going to.
I really thought they were going that way.
Anasea, the mother, she asks the children to fail the test. May does, but Osha chooses to pass it and wants to leave and become a Jedi. The two sisters have a big argument, and May locks Osha in her room and burns her diary. And this is where the editing is terrible.
Yes.
How setting fire to a diary, that fire then spreads and blows something up and kills a whole coven of Force-powerful witches. I'm just like,
it makes no sense.
You're a coven of Force witches. You're telling me you couldn't put out a small fire because it grows. And then are you telling me you wouldn't sense the impending danger? There's a disturbance in the Force. Oh, a big reactor might blow and kill us all. Also, don't keep fucking lanterns that close to something that can explode and kill you all.
Yes.
It was so
Here's
stupid.
I think the concept makes sense. Oh, something triggered all this fire.
Yeah.
The way they executed it, the episode, and showing it was horrible. Like, I understand, oh, there's a fire, but then all of a sudden everyone's dead, and then there's a big explosion. I'm like, that this was executed poorly. Like, the concept is good.
Well, it's funny when one of my friends was coming around yesterday, he hates it. He's like, no, but that's not the Force. When it is, they just call it the Thread. It's the same thing. No, it
Yeah.
isn't. And he started getting really anti about it. I was like,
And-
like, I'm not going to argue this with you because if you're taking it this seriously, mate, and you care
Yeah.
this much about it, you're one of those. I'm not
And
getting
honestly,
into it.
in the previous video games, the last two video games, like Jedi Survivor, there
Oh, yeah.
are planets where there are witches that use Force
Well,
powers.
the Force switches were established in Ahsoka as well, weren't they?
Yeah, so it's not anything new.
It's not a new thing. But I got to tell you. So I saw a comment from someone who I won't name and shame, but someone on our Twitter followers list. They posted they hated the show. They fast forwarded through most of the first 3 episodes, but then they proceeded to rip the episode a new one. And I said, no offense, guys, don't want to start a war, but I did a little, like saying, how can you honestly review the show when you fast forwarded through all of it? And then, this person, you can have a good back and forth. You can have a decent argument about a show on it. Like just say, and I just said, in my opinion, I would just watch the whole first episode and go, you know what, it's not for me, and leave it at that because life's too short to get that angry about something that is made up. But someone commented underneath, one of their friends, saying, "Yeah, I checked out when it got to the lesbian satanic space witch ceremony," and I was like, "Fucking hell, you sound like someone from who they're taking a piss out of from The Boys right here," which we're going to get onto as well soon. But I was just like, "What the fuck, man?" Like, I don't care about who interprets the Force. I don't care about the colony of witches because, like you said, Jose, that witches have been established in it, but it was just done badly. That's what I didn't like about it. The editing was done badly.
The dialogue is a little iffy, and if I'm going to be honest, it's not the greatest.
I feel she does the best she can with the dialogue. The dialogue and the story is what drags the show down because, like, the performances are generally quite good.
Yeah.
But I think what everyone was expecting in episode 3, we was expecting to find out what the Jedi did to cause that and why May is after the Jedi to kill them. And it doesn't seem to be that they did anything, really. That's what I don't understand. She started the fire that killed her whole coven, not the Jedi. So she's just killing the Jedi because they were there? Really? That's not enough of a motivation for me. I feel like there has to be something more.
Yeah, they did the bad job of establishing that.
And I did a bad job of establishing the kill list. So the first person on the kill list is Jedi Master Indara, played by Trinity from The Matrix, Carrie-Anne Moss. And I was like, when she walks in, and then May has a fight with her in the very first episode, I was like, and they've got some Force food they're trying to get across. So it's like Matrix crossed with Star. I was like, yeah, totally there for that. Awesome fight scene. And May kills her because she goes to kill someone innocent.
She saves someone behind the bar
She saves someone behind the bar, and that's how she gets stabbed and killed.
She gets distracted.
The next person is what was this guy's name? He was barely fucking in it either.
It was a guy who was actually
with
quite
a beard,
young, made to look older.
Torben is a bearded Jedi who's had since then he's spent 10 years floating in a vow of silence. So should be quite easy to kill, right? No, he's got a force field around him.
A quite good force field. Oh, force field.
Terrible, Jose. Terrible. There's another link to the kind of what we were just talking about. Torben is played by Tommen from Game of Thrones.
Oh.
But you don't recognise him because of the terrible facial hair.
Yeah.
It's like you got a small child and gave him Ewan McGregor's beard from fucking Phantom Menace. It's terrible.
It's interesting. And once you see the next episode, you see him quite young. So then there is this interesting mystery of what made him age so much more than everyone else.
It can't just be, oh, we turned up and then the witches all died. Because they weren't responsible for it. May was. So there has to be something else that the Jedi did. Perhaps they covered it up. Well, they do talk about covering up in one of the episodes. So you're just like...
Yeah, and then why would he feel so guilty? Like we didn't see anything that would feel guilty for. So it's like too many layers of hiding what actually happened when they should have just showed what happened.
So here's some theories, Jose. I listened to the Empire podcast. They did a brilliant spoiler special. They do a weekly one on it.
Uh-huh.
One of the theories, they had on there was, could Osha and May be the same person? And is this a Star Wars Tyler Durden Fight Club situation?
No. Because they're literally having two lives. One is being tutored by a Sith, and the other one has had a life with the Jedi.
But in the first couple of episodes, you see the character when you go from one of their scenes to their other scenes, that one of the characters is always waking up.
I feel
I
like
didn't
this
notice
is-
that myself, but I think that's could be because the story's too basic. I think they almost need to pull something like that to make it cleverer.
I think you're grasping at straws on that one.
It's
I
not
don't
my
agree.
grasping; it's their grasping. Okay,
I mean, I get
Fine,
what they're
Jose.
saying, but there are twins out there. Twins are not that weird. So, and then
Yes, twins
even the
exist.
Jedi, he said, "Oh, they're twins." He saw both of them. So that's that.
did he
whole
though,
idea.
or is he?
Is he seeing things?
Anyway. So look, that was just one thing, Jose. Let it go.
I understand.
Look,
I'm just
the
shooting
show-
down for conversation.
So, right, the showrunner, Leslie Headland, she described the show as Frozen meets Kill Bill,
Oh, nice. I like that.
which is a good pitch, but it's not what the show is. Yeah, I just... So, yeah, let's get on to episode 4, which is the most recent. And it got most of the team and characters together, and they're in a race against time to get to Kalnaka on his forest planet before May gets there and kills him. But on the way there, May now has doubts and decides to turn herself into the Jedi because she realizes her sister Osha is alive. However, as she arrives to turn herself into Kanaka, who really had fuck all to do, and they wasted the idea of a fucking Jedi Wookiee, and I'm really annoyed about that. We see that he has been killed by a lightsaber. Cue the whole team standing up and a red lightsaber in the distance, which is what we see in the trailer, and they all rush forward, get charging, and then a massive force cloud just hits them and pushes them all back. Cut to black. That is the most exciting minute of the show so far, and it ends on that.
Yes.
So look, for me, I honestly don't understand the hate for this show. It's not great, and I suppose that's an argument, right? That all Star Wars should be of a higher quality and really well made. This isn't, like we say, the story, the script, the editing. This is what lets the shows down. The actors and the performances are good, but it's just that just doesn't work for me on it. But certainly for me, it's not the worst Star Wars show out there. That is still, and probably will always be for me, the Book of Boba Fett.
Oh man, yeah. Unfortunately,
And I think that annoys me more because you have directors like Robert Rodriguez, who I used to love, who just seems to have completely lost his mojo and directing terrible action in it. I accept and get the Frozen and Kill Bill idea, and the whole twin sisters thing is one. I just don't like the trope, and so for me, that's not enough for me to fully get on board with the show. And being halfway through, I just don't care. And I think that's a mark of a show that's not that great. That if it was good and I didn't like things in it, then I would be animated about it, like the internet seems to be. Let's get on code. So I think let's move on to what, sadly, we have to, because people are just dicks. And I think it's just really like the racists and the homophobes coming through here. Like, look, you can say you don't like the show because it's badly written and it's, badly put together. That's absolutely fine. But you can just see the racism coming through in these comments and the review bombing and all that kind of stuff. And the fact that you've got a gay woman is showrunning a Star Wars show. And in the discourse, you should be able to just separate that. Like, it should be, no, that is nothing to do with why the show's bad. And it isn't. That isn't why the show's bad. The show's bad because it's not very well written. And yeah, sadly, that's the main downfall of the show. What about you, Jose, so far on it?
I mean, the only thing that really is even so quote unquote woke in this is the fact that the witches were gay. Everything else is.
Were they really? They were just inventing children, really. So
well, no, but like there was that scene when they went back to when they
Force.
first showed the witches. The two women were very intimate. I would assume it wasn't.
Oh
just
yeah, well
friendly.
they called her. She said, "Yeah, we do have my two mothers." She does say, doesn't she?
Yeah, I mean, but that's it. That's the only thing. Everything else is pretty accurate to Star Wars lore as much as it could be. There's nothing else that really even would be considered, a liberal idea. It's just the Star Wars universe. They're researching a murder plot, and then they're going to different places. And I'm like, that's it.
It would have been a much better show if it had been Soul investigating murders of Jedi on the way, and then you get, like a murder of the week, almost a detective murder of the week,
It's a very different
serialized show, but a Star Wars one. That would have been awesome because it's something different that hasn't been done. But then,
very different,
yeah, and I would have been much more down for that than what we're getting in a minute. Sadly,
yeah, I think having the twin sisters at all, it makes it more muddled, and then it creates too much of a need to get to the answers. Like now that in episode 4 we see this dark figure once we figure out who they are or what their motives are, what is going to happen with the show? What is the acolyte?
It's going to be one series. That's what it's going to be, Jose. I don't think this is going to get a second. I know Leslie Headlands has said she's got it planned out for 2 and 3, but I don't think. I'm hopeful because not of this show, but the Skeleton Crew that's supposed to be out later in the year, and that is being billed as a bunch of kids get stranded on a different planet, and they team up with an older Jedi to try and get home.
Nice.
So it kind of sounds like a Quantum Leap Star Wars thing, but they said it's a bit like the Goonies. It's a younger based show. So this ragtag band of young kids team up with, and the older Jedi who's going to be helping them is played by Jude Law.
Oh, no way. That's so crazy thinking Jude Law's old now.
Still looks good.
Yeah, right. But I mean,
he doesn't
overall,
age. He's on a Paul Rudd diet.
I was about to say.
But I mean, overall, the show I think has its merits. It's just the details are.
What are your positives then in the show? So, what do you like about the show?
I do like the fact that they're showing that the Jedi are not perfect. There is the flaws in their way of thinking, and they're making mistakes by not advising the High Council. Like I saw an article talking about we're probably not going to see Yoda because they haven't told Yoda about this, and this is technically a Sith kind of situation, and in the movies Yoda never heard about it. So like they're making mistakes by trying to fix them before they're being reported, So I like that they're showing the flaws of the Jedi, and then they're also it's really interesting seeing like regular characters in different parts of the worlds. We're traveling a lot more like before with Andor.
Yeah, I mean Andor I think is a high watermark of Star Wars TV.
Oh, Andor is peak storytelling.
I've ordered the 4K box set that comes out the 1st of July, and I'm very excited to rewatch the whole thing again.
Oh, nice.
Because Andor proved to me that, I think it proved to everyone that 1, Star Wars can be adult. 2, you can get great actors in and amazing scripting and acting. Like we mentioned Andor on the pod before. When Marie, have you ever watched Andor?
No, I haven't.
Do you know what? You can watch it without knowing anything else about Star Wars.
I mean, correct. I do like. Well, used to like Star Wars. I think the whole reason I don't anymore is because the fandom has gotten so toxic and just the shows haven't been good quality. I'm just fatigued.
Yeah.
Also, the sequels kind of destroyed me.
That's fair. This is a funny thing. Like when it was made, when it was in the planning stage, like everyone was like, like everyone generally liked Rogue One and thought it was really good.
Yeah.
But doing a spin-off show on one of the most boring characters from it. Cassian Blandor, as he was known at the time, didn't sound that good, and yet it's the best Star Wars TV show they've ever done. For me, I agree. It's so clever. There's bits that remind you of Severance in it. There's in Star Wars. Honestly, there's bits that Fiona Shaw giving like an Oscar caliber speech, and she did say "fuck the Empire" in it, and they had to dub it over in the final one. So if you watch, I want to see if they've changed that for their home release, or you see a mouth thick.
Yeah, I gotta say there's a episode or two that some people don't like because they think it's too slow. But overall, the writing's so.
I thought it started slow, but now I appreciate it because it needed that. Andy Serkis comes into it midway through and steals the whole show in about 3 episodes.
Well, the episodes he's in for sure, yeah.
The episodes he's in, yeah. I mean, I love the fact that at one point Andor goes to like a Star Wars beach resort, and it's like he's in Ibiza with like really bad Star Wars techno music playing, and it's so fun. And like you don't expect that, and but it's the acting. Like you got Stellan Skarsgård in it, delivering one of the best speeches of that year in any film or TV show about sacrifice, because they've got a spy that he meets with occasionally.
Calm down. She needs to enjoy this for herself.
No, I'm just saying he's got. I haven't said who the spy is or anything like that, but he's talking to this spy, and the spy's again kind of getting worried about getting found out. And he says to Skarsgård, he's like, "Well, I'm taking a risk here. What do you sacrifice?" And the speech, like I think it ends with something like he goes, "I will never live to see the dawn on the universe where what I've been doing my whole life will take fruition." You say I sacrificed. It's like, whoa, this is. Honestly, it was an Oscar clip, like Stellan Skarsgård in that one. And then the episode afterwards, Andy Serkis comes in and gives a speech just as fucking good. And you're just like, my God, this show is...
Yeah, I came into the show not expecting to like it. And I'm just like, why do they make a show of this character? It's just so dumb. And for the most part, I was just like, okay, I'm hooked. It's just,
Yeah,
it's so well
I can't
done.
wait for the second series, and they've taken their time. It's been about
Mhm.
2 years on the second series, and they always planned it 2 seasons, this many episodes from the start, so
Oh,
they know
wow.
exactly where it's going to end.
I
I mean,
didn't know
we
that.
know it's going to end. We've seen Rogue One. Every character in it's
Yeah.
going to die, sadly, but but the journey is so good in it. This journey is so good.
Yeah, I think they just did a really great job, and it shows. Yeah.
Well, before we move on to the final show we're going to talk about today, I did ask for some comments late as always, and at Next to the Aisle, I asked them what they thought about the shows we're going to be talking about today, and Next to the Aisle said the Acolyte is floundering, in my opinion. And yeah, we're wrong. I don't think we've sold you on the Acolyte, have we? There, Marie?
No, not at
Yeah.
all. I mean, you got you had my interest peaked with lesbian satanic cult
Space
Jedi,
witches.
but
Yeah.
witches, but yeah, by the sounds of it, it's very Star Wars, and they don't really follow through on that.
Yeah, go watch Andor. Oh, one other thing about Andor, cousin Richie from the Bears in Andor as well.
Oh, nice! I haven't seen him in anything else.
He's going to be the Thing in the Fantastic Four, which is going to be awesome.
Oh yeah, that was announced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a brilliant cast. Was it Vanessa Kirby, Pedro Pascal, him, and
Stranger Things, he was the rocker kid.
oh, Joseph Quinn. Yeah, it is.
Oh.
Yeah, I was getting mixed up. Next up, The Boys is back, and it starts 6 months after the events of season 3. So that's shortly, as I take it, after the events of Gen V as well, which I think they was going to tie it in, but obviously with Chance Padermo passing away, I think there's going to have to be a fair bit of retconning going on, sadly, for
I've
that.
heard that they're gonna make his character die in the show as well. They're not gonna just recast him or
Recast him,
anything
yeah.
like that.
That seems the way to do it, sadly, yeah.
Yeah.
The kind of thing they're setting up with this series of The Boys is that Homeland is kind of having a midlife crisis. I mean, you see that there's a bit where he's looking down and he's got grey pubes, which was hilarious.
Yeah. Not only does he see them, he's collecting them.
I was about to say that.
That is so strange.
We obviously, with Butcher now, we know that he is dying and he hasn't got long left. And he also starts hallucinating his dead wife, Karen. Hello, Karen. Hello once again to Chantal Van Santen.
Yes.
Who,
Oh.
the best Karen of Karens. Like
I
she
don't think she's a
fully
Karen.
She is a Karen. Mate, she even played a Karen on For All Mankind, where
I liked her on that show.
I hated her with a fiery vengeance in that show. I was glad when she died. Oh, spoiler For All Mankind.
Spoilers.
It's okay, we're in the spoiler section.
We're in a spoiler safe zone. Yeah. No, she's very good at being unlikable. But so why he wants to see her when he's like, on the verge of dying all the time?
In this episode, do we know that he sees her? I couldn't remember if she appears right away or if it takes
Yeah,
an
she
episode.
does. She appears at the end, and you kind of pick up, he's talking to Air. I immediately guessed,
Yes.
he's talking to his dead wife.
Ah, okay.
What I like as well in this show, we get the new CIA guy turn up. Hello, the comedian from Watchmen. Hello,
Yes.
John Winchester from Supernatural. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who, of course, was in the Supernatural with the Boys creator, Eric Kripke. You just need Jared Padalecki to turn up now, and you've got all three of them.
He said he's
you're
willing to
right.
do it. Like, he just needs to row.
He can be there. He can be there in season 5.
Now, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Do you think he should play a superhero or a regular person?
Oh, superhero.
Super villain.
Ooh.
I mean, we already had Jensen Ackles as supervillain, which was amazing.
They need to share a scene together, though, don't they?
He'd be a scientist that wakes him up.
There needs to be a Supernatural reference in it or something, or bring any of the characters from Supernatural into it. I mean, bring Castile in. It'd be great to see him
They're
in it.
slowly doing it.
They are slowly doing it. And when do we get introduced to Firecracker in the new one as well?
She's the podcaster, right?
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
on his podcast. Yeah,
We don't get introduced to her properly, but we see her podcast.
Okay.
yeah. She's your standard MAGA conspiracy nut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
it's really interesting what that turns into.
Yeah, it's very clever where that goes. And we got Frenchie being gay or bi, and was this hinted at in the previous season?
No,
Yes.
it was a complete surprise.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, was he bi in the other episodes?
Yeah, he was in a throuple and everything.
With who?
His former boss. The one who then kidnapped
Oh.
him.
I might have just not picked up on it. But if anything, I just am sad that him and Kimiko didn't work out. Because I thought they were just kind of chilling for a little bit and they'd kind of make something happen. But I guess they backed out of that. That's really the only reason I'm just not happy with his character with that other
Colin.
guy.
Well,
Colin.
the thing is though, yeah, because Colin obviously works for Starlight and her whole thing that's going on at the minute. But once you get a bit more information on Colin's backstory, it ties in with French's backstory, and then it obviously
Makes sense, but
the way they're planning that, it's going to make sense when it gets to that stage. And I mean, Kimiko's storyline hasn't really taken off yet this series either. Yet it's still kind of like
I think it's going in a good direction though, because it makes sense that it's happening.
we're trying to not do spoilers. That's what. Yeah.
Yes, that's why I'm saying.
Spoilers for episode 1. I'm unfortunately, due to the Sardine Festival, behind.
Absolutely the best excuse you can have for that.
So episode 1 opens up with the heist that on Newman.
That's it.
And similar to House of Dragon, it's fuck up after fuck up. Butcher cannot just control himself. Yeah, the main other like big plot point that happens is they are looking for MM's ex-wife's ex-boyfriend.
That's the one.
And they tail him and they find him in a warehouse, and we get introduced to a new character,
Sister Sage,
who's the smartest woman in the world, and she decides to team up with Homelander. And we don't know what they're scheming, but it's come to, like, they're definitely doing something because they beat these Homelander fans to death and then dump them. And then they get like positioned there by A-Train to make it look like the Starlighters killed them.
I also like that Bobby Singer, Dakota Bob, the president-elect, played by Jim Beaver, another Supernatural alumni, is working with Grace Mallory and the boys to stop Newman and Voight and the superheroes for control. Because, again, I didn't remember that from the previous season. I thought, he's just, like, they're keeping an eye on him, because obviously with Newman being one step away from president, which was, like, the big thing they were playing at the end of the series, the last series. But the fact he's in on it with the boys, I was like, that's a change from what I knew. I mean, they are moving so far away from the original comic books now. And yeah, I've read them all, and I've read them all twice, actually. I've read them in the last couple of years again. And I still think they need to end, they're going to end the show the same way the comic book does, which is a brilliant ending. And I think it still needs to, I think it can still get there quite easily. They don't have to do too much course correction.
One little fun fact, Claudia Dumet playing Victoria Newman, she's actually Australian.
I was going to say that.
I thought that was so interesting.
Online.
Yeah.
She was doing some social media clip of it. And I was like, what's that?
Her accent just threw me. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I looked into her, and then she had done a lot of other stuff. And she was talking about her process of moving up the ranks. And I'm like, man, that is so cool. Because like there's so many actors that you think are American, and they're actually played by people from other countries, mostly Europeans,
mostly
like British. Yes.
Or Australians.
Or so the fact that you
New
can
Zealand.
kind of play off New Zealand, yeah. And the fact that you can kind of play off of those accents is just really fun to learn, you know. Black Noir, what are your opinion on Black Noir?
This is brilliant, because this is completely different from the comic books now, right? So they've just got a guy in a suit to be Black Noir now, and I love that he keeps talking like you're talking too much.
Yeah.
You don't speak.
The question is, do you think he's a superhero with similar powers, or do you think he's just an actor?
I think he's just an actor. We don't know yet, and I don't think we'll know for a while, which is really clever.
That's
I mean, he does bash that guy's skull in, so you do need proper force.
So he's got powers, but obviously the original Black Noir didn't speak, and this guy can.
Yeah.
I wonder who it is. I wonder if we ever see who it is. Whether it's just like, I don't know, like a clone of the other Black Noir, or it's actually a completely different actor under there, like someone you recognizable when he finally does take the mask off.
And here's the thing about Black Noir. I remember in the first, or was it the one with Jensen Ackles? You look back, and he had the ability to regenerate from injuries, but like obviously his guts being torn out is a serious injury. Do you think that he might come back, that version of Black Noir, and that he's just in a hospital?
Anything is possible in this show, right?
That's what I'm
Anything
wondering.
is possible in it. I don't think there's
because the girl, the female Karen Fukuhara, her character is able. Kimiko. Was it Kimiko?
That was such a gnarly scene when she hits the pavement and her face blows up.
Oh.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, so and like Starlight's new power to be able to use her
to fly,
beams to fly.
But like
I like that they're evolving some of these characters' powers, but so if she can kind of regenerate, the female or Kimiko, if she can regenerate, can Black Noir regenerate enough to eventually come back? That's the question.
or from like a bucket in the corner somewhere.
But that's where I'm really interested in seeing where these characters go. Obviously, a lot of times we have no way of predicting where this is going.
No.
I mean, if you've read the comics, you do. You have a
Shush.
rough idea
Shush,
of where
Neil.
it needs to end up. I have never implied anything,
No,
Jose. And
it's funny
refute
because
that
some
allegation.
YouTube shorts I've accidentally watched to give away a little too much, but I feel like if you think that it can get to the same ending,
Got to stay off YouTube, Jose.
yes, I'm really interested to see if they can make it around to where the ending of the comics was, because
I think it's simple to do.
yeah, I mean, I feel like these showrunners are smart enough to bring it around, seeing as far as they've taken it so far.
Yeah. I mean, this is the second last season, so and unlike Game of Thrones, they actually planned the whole thing out.
Well, and this is what Eric Kripke did with Supernatural. Arguably, he left after the first 5 seasons of Supernatural, and arguably he said at the time when he walked away, he's like, "Well, I planned it out for 5 seasons. I've achieved that. I'm done. I've got nothing else to do with the story." And the first 5 seasons of Supernatural were the best seasons. It was superb. It started okay,
wow.
and it got better. Then it got better, and it was absolutely on fire in like seasons 3, 4, and 5. And they could have easily ended it at season 5, but then the show was doing so well for the CW, they just kept extending the actors'
I
contracts.
saw a blurb saying that he was thinking about not holding himself to just 5 and taking it longer if necessary, if it made sense. Have you guys seen anything like that?
No,
I've
no,
I think it's been officially announced that
Yeah, it's been officially announced now, Jose, that season 5 is the last
the
season.
last
But
season.
there's going to be more spin-offs, and because the world of the boys,
Yeah, because like
It's
Gen
massive
V
for
will
Amazon.
continue probably.
Gen V, I think, is really a really good spin-off. It could have been its own show. Like,
I was so surprised by Gen V.
yeah,
Like,
it was a lot better than I thought.
Yeah, like, spin-offs usually have not the best reputation, but it was so good.
and I think what made it really great is they didn't require a character from the boys to make it. They just did it
Yeah.
whole differently, fresh cast, and then just that last cameo was great.
Yeah. 2 cameos.
Actually, what's the girl's name who's the CEO?
Ashley.
She's technically in the cameo.
Kobe Menifee, the actress.
Colby
so
Menifee.
good.
I like what she does. It's so crazy, and that's all I'm going to say right now because I don't think it's in the first episode.
It's definitely not Jose, but I know exactly what you mean. I have just watched that today.
Yeah.
So the show, The Boys is Amazon's second most watched show of all time in its first 4 days, only behind Reacher season 2. So I suppose a
Wow.
good thing for Amazon is all their newer shows are doing better than the previous seasons. However, it is getting review bombed because people of a certain political affiliation, shall we say, have finally realised the show is taking the piss out of them. I mean, how could you not watch this show and not get the message? It's pretty staggering to me.
Yeah, no. I don't understand this. I've just recently been seeing all the memes like, "Oh, you finally realized that The Boys was woke," and I was just like, "What? How? Like they have a Tucker Carlson character. They have Vought News, which is clearly Fox News. Then they've
Since
satired.
season 1.
Yeah, since season 1, they satired so many stuff from pop culture. I mean, we've had the A Train recreate the Kardashians Pepsi ad. Then they recreated, I think it was last season, the Imagine video.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that.
It's brilliant. I love that they had the Deep do it. But it's just, and then of course the entire like storyline of the show is like the underdogs taking down a multimedia conglomerate. It's just, I honestly do not understand.
I think these people are just really, really fucking stupid. Sadly,
Yeah.
I mean,
just,
it's not that. It's, I think,
no, it is
something
Jose.
that's
They're dumb.
explained later in the series that I don't want to give it away, but it's just people, they believe what they want to believe, and then unfortunately when other people in power take advantage of that, they use they use that as a way to feed into, oh, you already kind of believe it, so we're just going to feed into what you already believe, even if it makes it like the most crazy idea, but it's because you already believe it. It makes sense to you.
I mean, yeah. So there's an article on Screen Rant that said the show's politics have never been particularly subtle, and those just figuring it out have slammed the new season for being woke, which is just crazy. Kripke himself recently responded to these complaints in an interview with THR saying, the Hollywood Reporter, I believe that is. I clearly have a perspective, and I'm not shy about putting that perspective in a show. Anyone who wants to call the show woke or whatever, that's okay. Go watch something else. I'm certainly not going to pull any punches or apologise for what we're doing, he continued. Some people think Homelander is a hero. What do you say to that? The show's many things. Subtle isn't one of them. If that's the message you're getting, I just throw my hands up. Like Marie is actually doing right now.
Yeah, and honestly, it's... I know this is an audio-only podcast, but, my face does not have a filter. But it's... Yeah, oh God, the Homelander, people think Homelander is a good guy. It's just, oh my God, how? How can you sit through, now 4 seasons of the show and think he's the good guy? He's the bad guy by, episode 2 of season 1.
Or the end of episode 1.
Yeah.
What was that? Was it the plane?
Yeah, he shoots down the plane.
Yeah,
with
the plane.
Kid. Yeah, that's it.
You're right.
That's the end of the first episode.
1.
It's like...
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, right? I don't think the show has changed in any way, if I'm honest.
Nope.
As the next series is the final one, I just don't think even worry about the review. I think Kripke just doesn't give a shit now. The end's in sight. He's like, season 5 and I'm done. It's confirmed. I can honestly say what the fuck I want now. I don't have to be diplomatic. And I sadly think the review bombers on The Boys are the same basement-dwelling Trump fans who hate the Acolyte as well. And it just seems like only now that Kripke has come out in that interview and said about his politics that the intended butt of the jokes have realised, oh wait, they're taking the piss out of us. And that's why, and I love it. Kripke's just like, fuck you guys. I've always been saying fuck you guys, but now, fuck you guys.
Yeah, the show...
He can absolutely call those people out now, can't he? He absolutely can.
No, the show never pulled any punches.
The
only thing that it has changed, that each season has gotten more balls to the wall insane. The insanity of the show has gone it was at a casual 7, and now it's just at a 12.
Casual 7. It's and I think honestly the woke, so quote unquote wokeness is just, I don't know. It's weird to say that it's just more obvious because it's always been obvious, but now it's more centralized.
I think the problem is, Jose, the people who used the word have just completely forgotten the original meaning of the word.
Oh yeah,
and the meaning of the word was to basically, so you as a white person being aware of other people's social issues, especially it was to do with a lot of people in the black community. I think roughly like white people, we're aware of the problems, we're aware of lack of representation, we're aware of lack of diversity, and we want to look at things like that, which is what the world should be like. People should be aware of all these things, and the word's just been taken and bastardized to mean stuff that people don't like, basically stuff that insecure, racist, and homophobic people don't like.
It's a what's it called? It's a vocabulary word that they just throw out there without really knowing how to use.
You need to take it back. Take it back.
Yeah.
And remember, there are a shit ton of ways you can get in contact with us here at We Needed Roads. You can find me at Needed Roads on Twitter, where I'm active daily. Give us a follow on there. David runs our Instagram, which is at We Needed Roads. You can drop us a message at weneededroads@gmail.com if you abhor social media like Ben does. You can even buy merch and get our logo on a t-shirt or even a tote bag now. If you go to hawker.live, HAWK/r.live, and search for We Needed Roads Podcast. And finally, if you like what you hear, you can give us a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. I believe you can even now leave comments on episodes on Spotify, and you can also send us text messages, which sadly no one has yet. So be the first, and we'll read it, and we'll give you a shout out. And so I'd like to thank my co-hosts here today. Jose, where can people find you on the socials?
The main account that I want everyone to look at is Jose Lopez Photos on Instagram. If you have any photographic needs, such as a wedding, event, or a headshot, I travel across the world, and I'm totally not doing spy things, so just look me up at Jose Lopez Photos on Instagram.
Just to clarify, Jose Lopez Photos on Instagram are pictures that you have taken, not just pictures of you.
Correct, because they're all of other people.
It's just the name was slightly confusing there. I'm just going to
at Jose Lopez Photos.
And Marie, where can we find you?
You can find me at I go by Life on Mars on the internet, so you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and you can listen to my very woke podcast, Two Girls, One Reusable Cup, on all major streaming platforms.
You're taking the word back.
Taking it back. We'll see you next time, folks. See you then.
We needed roads.